Hello. It is me again. Unfortunately for everyone involved. No, you're not seeing this wrong. Is it August already of 2025 and we're back in the building again. Listen, I did not want to do this. Look, my two of my favorite people in the world right here. Marty Blaze, who is 100% gonna say fucking greetings and salutations like the alien he is, and the fucking mummy for the movie The Mummy, who doesn't know how to shut up, apparently. Listen, but how's everyone doing? Hello? Are we good? I have the voice mod thing active. Hopefully, I am not a fucking robot right now or anything. Listen, apparently, Mari Place here present is now doing uh, interviews with people no one really cares about. And one of these people is Mark Darrah. Okay? If you know Mark Darrah, he was a lead developer in Bioware for many, many years. He left the company in 2020 and he came back in 2022, I believe, as a consultant for Veilguard. So does he have horses in this race? Yes, he does. Also, if you're not familiar with Matty Plays, he played Veilguard. I am surprised that actually he's willing to get back in the saddle with Veilguard, considering his history with Veilguard. Okay, and I will give you like the footnotes. He, as many other people, had access to Veilguard early. Okay, and he was given access, I think, to like 7 hours of the game to play and review and stuff. And turns out that then Veilguard releases and it's a hot steaming pile of shit. And people like Matty Place had been saying for months, I think it was 4 months before release, he kept just saying like, oh, it's an incredible game, it's amazing, it's a return to form for Bioware in Dragon Age, it's an amazing game, play it, buy it, yada yada yada. It was supposed to not be a sponsor. It was just, like, oh, I am doing this out of my own volition, although they got flown there and they got paid in engagement, but we don't listen. We listen, but we don't judge, okay? Anyways, game releases, and not only the game, before it releases, I think a day before the game releases, Matty Play's editor, he sent the footage, like, not footage that wasn't supposed to be shown before the release. He sent that footage, his editor, like this guy's editor, sent it to someone else, to a friend, and the friend leaked it to the internet, and literally a proof that all the concerns regarding Veilguard were very much true, and Bioware had tried to keep it under wraps so the game wouldn't, the sales wouldn't hurt. But it did hurt because the footage got leaked. And then I think a few days later, Mari comes out and says, oh, actually, Bioware scammed me. Bioware, they fucked me up. They only show me the best hours of the game. So they would, they tricked me. I was tricked. Yeah, I know how it sounds like a fucking excuse. So now the trend is like, oh, Bioware. Bioware is the evil, villain after all of this, which we knew. We knew Bioware was not a good company. We kept saying, oh, like, hey, Bioware, it's not doing good. Bioware, it's putting out shitty games. We have been shooting them, yelling this from the rooftops, right? And people like Matty Place and people like Eddie and people like, Kayla Elizabeth, they were like, no. Bioware is great. Bioware is amazing. Actually, we love Bioware. And then they got absolutely fucked over with the whole Veilguard shedackle. And they got fucked very very fact. Like they're every ounce of, how do you even fucking say that word in English? Just like you know, they couldn't be trusted anymore, is what I'm trying to say. Like after what they pulled, they showed their true colors and they couldn't be trusted anymore. But now I'm gonna say hi to you guys that are in chat, because obviously you guys are here, because if I'm fucking shitting on Veilguard, you guys appear out of the fucking woodwork, okay? We are shitting on Veilguard again. Yes, Evans, it is that time of the year. It happens once a year. This is, you know, it's like Christmas for us. I come back, I'm Santa, okay? And we shit on Veilguard. I didn't remember Mark Darrah's Unsolicited Cameo. Can anyone refresh my memory? So Mark Darrah consulted on Veilguard, okay? He wasn't officially like a dev or whatever, but I don't know if he was on the payroll for BioWare, but he did consult on Veilguard, and it is on, like, his words. He says that Veilguard is basically the best Dragon Age game to date, that the combat was the most fun, which I can give that to him. I think the Veilguard combat was more polished, but it got really repetitive because they just made the enemies bullet sponges. But, you know, that's my fucking 2 cents. But, you know, and he just keeps saying that, oh, Veilguard is the best one. Veilguard is great, and I'm proud of what we did with Veilguard, which is like, that's all you need to know about this man. Okay? Hello, Larian. What? Yes, we're back. This is, you know, you're not seeing this wrong. It is 2025. I clearly misjudged you, Miss Nouri. I thought you were just grifting off the Discourse for this game. It's been a year and clearly have a true passion for the Dragon Age franchise. Listen. I know that most of you, or some of you, and I cannot even fucking fault you for that, a lot of people thought that I was a grifter. And I was about to become one. Listen. I could have made a lot of money. I'm telling you right now. The paycheck, it was tempting, okay? But I cannot get this level of upset about everything, okay? Only this fucking game pulls it out of me. Like this hatred, this rage. And you can tell that it's genuine. I don't have to fake it, okay? Because I'm really upset. I'm genuinely mad about this, okay? Mark Darrah was making the claim that buying a game does not give you the right to voice your displeasure. He called it harassment, but he meant criticism. Yes, nowadays, you know, harassment, criticism, same thing. You know, like you cannot voice your opinion in any sort of way against a developer, a studio, because, you know, you're basically just harassing people. Also, don't want to get more mad at BioWare starts. You do what you have to do, okay? Nothing brings people together like hating on the same things. Exactly. It's human nature. And listen, I don't want to do this, but here I am, okay? Let me know if the audio, it's 1 hour. 1 hour of what? I don't even know. Guys, do you want to do a bingo? Okay, do we do a bingo of what is gonna... We know right now, and if you don't know, I'm gonna tell you. Maddie here on the left is not gonna say anything, okay? He's not gonna ask any interesting questions that might bring, you know, some actual thought-provoking, you know, questions at all. No, Maddie doesn't do that. Maddie doesn't actually interview and question developers and CEOs. He doesn't do that. He just sits there and goes like, Dragon Age was my favorite RPG growing up, and I loved what you did in the game, and I'm really honored to have you here, and I'm gonna just smile and clap at whatever you're gonna, you know, say, and I'm gonna agree with whatever. That's gonna be the entirety of the fucking interview, okay? It's just gonna be Mark Darrah sucking his own dick and Maddie being like, wow, I've never seen a skill like this. You're a legendary developer in the... Just, I warned you. Don't tell me that I didn't warn you, because I did warn you, okay? Life stamps, whatever. We'll read the comments later, because there's a lot of mixed opinions in the comments, okay? Let me know about the audio.
Here today, and I am being...
I'm sorry, it's, you know...
Salutations, everybody.
Salutations? Salutations? No salutations.
It is Maddie here today, and I am being joined by an absolute legend in the...
Do we do a bingo. Listen. If I had, it's coming back. It's like riding a bike. It's like riding a bike. If I had this level of like, I am the oracle, I can predict what shills are gonna say. If I had that same level to like the lottery, I would be rich. I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be this upset here. I would be in fucking Hawaii. Should we do a bingo? I just feel like, you know. Wah. It's hot. I'm sweaty. His face pisses me off. And this man over here looks like he's like 2 days, you know, post-mortem. Look alive, Mark. Look alive. Whoo! I told you, you're a legendary dev. Oh my god. You're so legendary, Mark Darrah. Ugh.
The gaming space. If you've tracked any of my BioWare coverage in the past, you know I've talked about this man quite a bit. I've had the pleasure of interviewing him once before over on Defining Duke. We're sitting down here for a one-on-one chat talking about BioWare, the state it's in now, also the history, the tremendous history you have there, talking about games industry economy, tips for new game developers. I'm joined
Should we make a bingo? Do you guys want to make a bingo? Chat, do we make a bingo? Of things we think are gonna like be said on the stream. And I'll put the link on the chat. So, okay, throw some ideas at the wall. What is gonna be said? Okay, BioWare is at fault. That is BioWare's fault. It's 100%. It's BioWare's fault. Like, not a doubt in my fucking mind. Okay, what else? Like. Dude, it's so low. I don't know what else. The devs didn't have enough time. Are we adding that one? Do we agree? Most diverse Dragon Age. I don't know if that's gonna be a thing. I think instead of diverse, is the fans' fault? You think if they're gonna say that? You think Mark Darrah is gonna be that? I think they're just gonna be like more vague about it. I think they're gonna bring in the devs. Like, the devs didn't have enough. Blames the fans. Okay, I'm seeing 2 people. Blames the fans. Veilguard was a good game. Okay. Veilguard was a good game. I think it's like, you know, the devs. The devs didn't have enough time. Something like that. What are they gonna say? Like, Mass Effect was the favorite or something like that? Blames political climate, you guys think? Ooh. Player expectations were too high. Oh, you guys are cooking. Wait. Okay. I'm trying to see if you guys repeat more than one. So we are, you know, it's kind of like even. What else can it be? I feel like it's BioWare's fault and blames the fans. I think that's kind of like the shifting blame. EA's fault? Are we gonna blame EA? They're gonna mention the lack of time. Like, there's no time. Combat was groundbreaking. I'm gonna say like blames political climate. If they mention something about, you know, like how, you know, the gamers are too political now and whatever. Online trolls mentions. Online trolls. I think they're gonna bring like mentions Mass Effect or something. Like, because they have been mentioning like, oh, Mass Effect is the favorite child or something like that. Something like that. The games. That one is another game. Focus. Shifted. What else? What else? Review bombing? Okay. Review bombing. Yeah, I'm seeing some of you saying that. Mentions. Did I just put modern audience in there? Modern audience. Wow. It's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be interesting. We're gonna see. We're gonna see. If anyone is joining, we're doing a bingo about what Mark Darrah and our bestie here, Maddie Place, are gonna mention. Do you guys think like just avoids like talking about actual criticism? Toxic fans? I'm seeing a couple you saying toxic. Toxic gamers? There's some room for flexibility here, okay? Not enough money, you think? Expectations too high. Let's see this. Oh, something about Maddie. So should we say something about like Maddie Shields? Maddie Shields, okay? He just shields. He just fucking, you know. Baldur's Gate 3 is actually Dragon Age 4. What about hinting Dragon Age, you know, is it 5? What number do we have now? Gamergate, I don't think they're gonna mention anything even slightly. I'm gonna say doesn't address any criticism. That's not how you fucking criticism. That's how you spell it now. We are watching an interview of Mr. Matty Place and Mark Darrah. Reach millions of players. Ooh. If you guys see a fucking typo, you fucking didn't, okay? Like something like Veilguard is, you know, the best it could be, or something like that. That's what I'm saying. Like Mass Effect is gonna be mentioned 100%. Let's say instead of factual, like let's say Mass Effect mentioned. You guys have to be ready. You have to be, you know. I might put it on this side, like the bingo. Competitive market. The game was successful. Veilguard was actually successful. Okay. You guys are cooking. You guys are cooking? A success. Return to form. You guys think? I don't think they're gonna. I think we're giving them too much fucking grace. Oh, are they gonna mention like it's EA's? Yeah, the devs didn't have enough time. What else can we say? Not enough time. Something about the devs were, you know, overworked or something like that. Best Dragon Age 2. They're gonna say something about the devs because he's a dev, Mark Darrah, so he's gonna mention devs, yes or yes. Devs were overworked, forced to work on Mass Effect. Something of that nature, okay? If you guys cannot see it, you cannot see it. What else? What else? What else? What else? Oh, are they gonna Anthem mentioned? He worked on Anthem. And do we think that they're gonna, you know, number of players engaged? Do we agree with this overall? The writing style, what can we change? These two are the same. Let's talk about, they're gonna talk about the writing style or something like that. What can we change? Because I think, let's do inclusivity, and I'm gonna change that, and let's do, okay, let's do, okay. Let's do let's see if they mentioned inclusivity mentioned. That's not how you. Okay, we're not gonna change anything else. Let's see. Obviously, there's room for interpretation here. The important thing is to win. Okay, do we agree? Oh, fucker. I think this is the one. Let me know if this is the one. I'm gonna generate one for myself. You guys can just use that. Let me get it. And I might put it on the screen, okay? Do you guys get it? Do you guys get the... Everyone get the... Get your stuff. Get your stuff. Fuck, why? It gave me, like, 8 possible fucking... Bitch? Okay, everyone, get the... If I have any mods here, you guys can... do your thing. I will copy paste the link a couple times so you guys can get it. It's an hour long, okay? And it's gonna be like 2 hours because you guys know how I be. You guys know how I be. It takes me 3,000 years. I'm gonna have mine over here. We're not betting anything. We're not betting. We are warriors of God. We're not betting anything, okay? Okay. Let me switch stuff. Are you guys ready? Are you guys ready? Does everyone here have their little bingo? Here one's for you guys. Let's go. Whoa.
By none other than Mark Darrah. Mark, how are you doing today, good sir?
I'm doing well. Yeah.
Awesome. Great to have you here, man. Just a lot to go over here today. First, I want to just check in on with your history, because to prepare for these interviews, I like to go through everyone's entire Moby games and just see like, how many things you've executive produced, directed, programmed. You have a lot of time spent on all these different games. So I'm just curious if you have a favorite game, what that would be, and why it would be that one in particular.
Do you mean a favorite game that I worked on, or just
well, actually that'd be fun too, just to hear what your favorite game in general is. But yeah, a favorite game you worked on too.
I don't like him.
So,
I don't like him.
I usually answer that question this way. I think the game that I'm most proud of, the resulting game, is Dragon Age Inquisition.
We are starting strong. We're starting strong, motherfucker. Why? Listen, if this doesn't show you what the rest of the fucking interview is gonna be like, because what do you mean? Out of all the games you've worked on, Inquisition is the one you're the proudest. Oh, God.
It is the one where we set out with a pretty clear
and
vision,
you know that if he had actually been hired for Veilguard, he would have said Veilguard.
In terms of the project I was most proud of, in a lot of ways, I would say that's probably Dragon Age 2. Not because it's the best game I've ever done, but because it was done under such tight constraints. And
sure.
Oh, he pisses me off. What do you mean? Listen, you guys don't fucking understand. So he's the proudest of Inquisition, of the work he did in Inquisition. But in the same breath, he says, well, and I like Dragon Age 2, not because it's the best game I've ever made. Dragon Age 2 came out in, what was it? Like, under 2 years? Dragon Age 2 runs laps around fucking Dragon Age Inquisition. You know that fucking scene in Winter Soldier with Sam Wilson and Steve Rogers? And Steve Rogers is like fucking running around Sam Wilson? That's Dragon Age 2. And this is Inquisition. I am sorry. What?
And I'm really proud of what we were able to do in the time we had.
It has begun.
My favorite team was the Sonic Chronicles team. I just have a love affair with the smaller team size, that the ability to have a team that you know everyone on.
Yeah, that'll definitely be a talking point, I think, later, just with how the industry's grown so much, huge teams. That's really interesting. Just on the note of Dragon Age 2, that's a game that I feel I didn't appreciate nearly as much as I felt I should have at launch, but until you really
Because you're a
started to share
fucking
that story of
pussy.
the conditions you and your team worked under to get that game out the door, that like understanding what you had to go through to get it out, really increased my appreciation of what it was doing. Because at first it felt like the outcast, but then it fits in just right, you know?
Yeah, I do think that a lot of the problem with Dragon Age 2's reception at launch is
Mm,
um, we didn't adequately prepare people for the change.
mm,
So I think that's one of the reasons why I feel like it's been able to repair its reputation over time is when people come and look at it 5, 10, what are we now, 14 years later, they're
mhm.
able to say, okay, I'm going to look at it with fresh eyes and let it stand on its
Why?
own.
Why? Why? Why do we do that? Because listen, the main issue, if you haven't played Dragon Age 2, I think it was a year or less than a year that they put it together. It was like 12 months. The game is a completely different play style and everything than the first one. It introduced a voice protagonist. It just was the Mass Effect of Dragon Age. It was when Mass Effect was extremely popular and BioWare adapted the entirety of the system for Mass Effect and shoved it in Dragon Age, okay? And it had such little time to come out that most of the dungeons were copy paste of one another, like they were the same dungeon over and over and over again. So it got pretty fucking, old pretty quickly. But then the writing was amazing, the companions were amazing, the voice acting was amazing. Hawk is literally on par with Shepard on voice protagonists that BioWare has ever made. And sure, it wasn't that well received, and it wasn't because of the change, it was because it just didn't have enough time to cook. So it just was a very small, very bare bones Dragon Age, and compared to the original, people were like, what is this? But it was never about the writing, it was never about the voice acting, it was never about the story. People love Dragon Age 2. People have been loving Dragon Age 2 for a decade at this point. So this, people are looking back at it with great eyes. People nowadays, people that, probably got introduced to Dragon Age with Inquisition, they might look at Dragon Age 2 and be like, that's a shitty game. Or Dragon Age Origins, like, that sucks. But then you actually play it and you enjoy them for what they are. And you enjoy them for the story that they're telling. And Dragon Age 2, again, it's so much better than Inquisition and Veilguard in every single fucking way that I cannot even explain to you just how much better it is. And it's not, coming from a place of like bitterness or whatever. It's just better in every way. And it came out in fucking 12 months with nothing. They didn't have any fucking money. They didn't have nothing. No time, no money. So, when you see games like Inquisition or you see games like Veilguard that had all the fucking money and all the fucking people and all the fucking time in the world, you just look at them and you know that they're shit because the people that worked on it are shit. And that's how it is.
And I think
Sure.
it's just when you came up and we called it Dragon Age 2 and we said, compare this directly to Dragon Age Origins. And then people look at it and are like, well, this sure isn't Dragon Age Origins 2, which it isn't. But we didn't do a good job of preparing people for that fact.
Yeah, I understand that. But it's interesting how Dragon Age as a franchise has evolved, where a lot of its lack of identity, in some sense, beyond just being a fantasy role playing series, kind of became its identity. Because each one, you had Origins to
I hate that excuse.
Inquisition.
I hate that fucking excuse of like, Dragon Age never had an identity. What? It had an identity. 100%. Dragon Age was Dragon Age, and you could not confuse Dragon Age with anything else. So this is such a low-hanging fruit, like such a poor justification. Oh, it never had time to set, like a precedent. It never had time to establish itself. That is just lies.
All doing similar but yet very different things. Was that ever always the plan, or do you guys just kind of start, because you talk about how happy you were with Inquisition, you obviously were at the top with Dragon Age 2? Is that always the plan with each of these games? Or they just kind of, when you gave birth to them, they just became their own thing?
Dragon Age Origins originally was intended as a standalone game. It actually, you can see this, if you play Dragon Age Origins, knowing that it was intended to stand alone, you can kind of see that in Dragon Age Origins. There's a lot of threads that are cast out that kind of had to be abandoned because, you know, there could be werewolves all over the world. There might be a civil war in the happening in underground in Orzammar. Like, there's a bunch of stuff that's just like was great to put out in a game that you never had to come back to. But then when we did,
Maddie's not going to talk about anything slightly controversial. I am warning you right now. We are going to talk about things that are controversial and things that these people don't want to listen to. But Maddie and Mark Darrah, this is the Babel at its finest. Okay. They're not going to talk about anything slightly controversial. Maddie's not going to make any questions that are actually interesting. It's just going to be him, you know, leading Mark Darrah by the nose in just, you know, circles, safe circles. We're not going to see anything interesting in this.
From that, the problem that Dragon Age has had, charitably, I guess, would be to say that EA wants mainstream success. And it's hard, or at least it has historically been hard for corporate people who come from the sports side of the organization to look at a game like Dragon Age Origins, which is super nerdy, not very attractive looking, and say, oh, this is a mainstream game. Yeah. They don't see it. They look at Mass Effect, they can see it. So
we had a Mass Effect mention thing, didn't we? Mass Effect mentioned. And is that EA's fault? I think that's EA's fault. Like, EA wanted it to be a mainstream, you know? And you have to look for a competitive market, you know, modern audience, something like that. Expectations too high might come out. Okay, guys, if you guys have the bingo, do I have if you guys just joined, get the bingo. Okay, we're doing a bingo. And Mark, EA's fault in Mass Effect mentioned. Okay. Also, don't play with me. If you guys get bingo, you join the fucking Discourse server and you show me that you got bingo. Don't cheat. Don't fucking cheat. I will know. Okay? But we have 2. And it's been 5 minutes. Okay?
So there's just been a lot of difficulty with them. There's always been a push for it to be more mainstream, more accessible.
I love that they say, like, oh, Dragon Age, you know. And that's the thing, right? That's the thing, because Baldur's Gate 3 completely sweeps this fucking argument off its feet. It's just like, no, shut the hell up. Because, first of all, Mass Effect is Nerd Town. Mass Effect is Nerd Town, okay? It's not like, oh, it's super mainstream. Mass Effect is not fucking Call of Duty. It's not Battlefield, okay? Like, listen. Let's chill. Like, it is not. And yeah, like, games like Baldur's Gate 3, which did what Veilguard tried to do, and did what, you know, Mass Effect, Dragon Age 2, and Dragon Age Inquisition tried to do. Like, it is... Baldur's Gate 3 is a nerd game. It's a niche game. It's a, you know, like, a game that mainstream and modern audiences wouldn't find attractive, but they did. Because the game was executed well for the most part. So, you know. Yeah, Maddie is not gonna confront Darrah in any... Because that's how he gets fucking interviews. These people don't go to interviews to actually get, you know, questioned. And to actually get their brains picked apart. Okay? Like, I want to know exactly what kind of environment they were working on. I want to know, like, you know, what do you think this game failed? Do you think the game failed? They're not going to ask any fucking interesting questions. Mass Effect is a nerd game. And the fact that they're, like, making it seem like it's Call of Duty, it's insane.
And so it's always had this either pressure to be something different or in the case of something like Inquisition, a reaction to that. It's like we got way out over our skis in Dragon Age 2. We got to pull back to something that's a little bit closer to a traditional CRPG.
And Inquisition, I think Inquisition got Game of the Year as soon as the Game Awards were a thing or something like that. I don't fucking know. But it was when, again, Mass Effect was very big, and Dragon Age Inquisition was very flashy, very woo-hoo-hoo, and it got Game of the Year. And then you have this, because Veilguard is not even remotely similar to Inquisition in any way, and it would have done 10 times better if it was. And again, Inquisition is not a great game. It's not the best Dragon Age game. But Veilguard would have done better if it was closer to Inquisition. But again, they're incapable of owning up to anything. And I do agree that the company, EA and BioWare, the company has a big say on, okay, this game has to be more marketable, okay? Do you see Mass Effect? We need to have, Mass Effect level of money coming in from this game. But that's every fucking studio. I know, that's every fucking studio. Every fucking company is gonna be breathing down your neck and be like, make me money. Make me money. Every fucking studio. It's not a new thing. A lot of people are like, oh, I didn't know BioWare was a company that wanted to make profit and money of their games. That sounds like a you issue. That sounds like, you had a completely wrong idea of what BioWare and EA were, because for a long time, you, the minority, the modern audience, you were the target audience because you were the one that, that the statistics said, oh, this is the one that's going to make me the most money. And then that shifted, and they were, caught fucking fumbling. They were caught with their fucking pants down. But it's always been like this. Always been like this. And the fact that they're like, oh, companies bad, all of a sudden, it's like they have been bad. Companies will always be bad because rich people are at the helm and they always want more money. So the excuse of like, oh, all of a sudden, the company is just, they did this. The people, which is really fucking funny to me because BioWare fired people, okay? They fired people. And they hired people. And the people that they hired, right? The people that these developers like Mark Darrah and, and David Gator and everyone else, those people are the ones that are like, oh, those developers that got hired by the big bad company and are on the company's payroll, they're angels. It's not their fault. And it's just coming from a place where they feel like they need to defend the undefendable. Because they're also devs, or they were also devs. So it's like, oh, it's not their fault that they did a terrible job at this. It's the companies. Like, shut the fuck up. Like, shut up. Honestly. Like, God.
So it's been kind of wobbling back and forth a lot, trying to reach out and then pulling back when it's gotten ahead of itself.
Interesting. Yeah, we'll talk about EA in just a moment here. I actually want to go back to what you mentioned about Origins. I didn't know that about the game, that it was intended to be a standalone. I gotta get my BioWare fan card revoked at this point because
Ay, qué ganas de darle de hostias. I will have to get my BioWare fan card revoked. Woohoo!
I did not know that.
I don't know that it's something that we've really ever talked about.
Okay. So yeah, my question on that is then what made you guys want to keep going forward with it, right? Because EA published Origins, and maybe this was a different EA back then, but they published this nerdy RPG that many of us adore, and you guys decided to carry it forward. Was it just like simple business, like, hey, this did really well, let's do more of this?
It's pretty much that.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, it's pretty much financial reasons more than anything. And I think that the franchise has been much more forward looking ever since then.
Sure.
But yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. Well, let's get into...
And that was the beginning of the end.
By the way, ladies and gentlemen, I provided Mark a bunch of actually planned questions and then just hit you with like none that I prepared you for. So I appreciate you.
I know that's a very a standard practice where you write out the questions beforehand and then you give them to the interviewee, the guy getting interviewed, and they will, tell you, okay, I can answer this, I'm not answering this, I can answer this, I'm not answering this. But that just pisses me off because, again, there's no room for actual conversation. Everything is pre-planned. Everything, like he just said, oh, I have a list of questions that I was going to ask you and the questions that you prepared for, and now I'm asking you about this or that. And it's like, I don't like this. There's no room for actual human conversation. Yes, Mark Darrah was a consultant for Veilguard, okay? And if you have seen him anywhere talking about Veilguard and praising it, it's because it comes from a very personal place. He wasn't officially a developer on Veilguard, but he very much was there and being consulted to when the game was happening, okay? So again, BioWare bad, EA bad, but when they pay you to consult, that's okay. You left the company for a reason, but when they bring you back... Also, I think in this, there's again, former Dragon Age boss, now consulting on the Veilguard, says that the RPG really is the best Dragon Age game that I've ever played. So that's all you need to know about Mark Darrah, by the way. And he also mentioned that recently, I think, or when they brought back a developer, like a senior developer, for Mass Effect, to work on Mass Effect. And Mark here, he was a lead, like a senior developer. He wasn't like, like a fucking director or like a, like a CEO, or he wasn't that. He was a developer that had been working there for a very long time. And when they brought back the Mass Effect senior dev back, he got upset as spaghetti because they didn't tell him about it. Although he admits that his opinion, either positive or negative, wouldn't have influenced the hiring of the other developer into Mass Effect. But he got upset that they didn't tell him about it. So, I feel like Mark Darrah, he speaks from a place of arrogance. Like, there's a subtone of just like he thinks he knows best. I mean, technically, he does know best about Dragon Age. He knows more than me because he's been part of it for a long time. But, it's always like looking down on you, looking down on his nose at you. And I don't like that.
Playing ball with me here. The one I really wanted to get into is, as someone who's covered BioWare for a while, there's been just a lot of reports that fly in and out of the studio, just given the recent development cycles between like Andromeda, Anthem, Veilguard, and Jason Schreier of Bloomberg did publish a piece about Veilguard's development cycle. And he did mention how I found this to be kind of the real shocker in the mix of the story, is that there was a feeling within some of the BioWare team that there was priority from EA for the Mass Effect team versus the Dragon Age team. And as someone who's been there really since the start, since the glow up, right, where Baldur's Gate 2, 1998, right? So did you feel like, as someone who's really been a strong part of the Dragon Age franchise, did you feel like that was reflected in your time on the team?
I definitely felt like Dragon Age was having a lot of difficulty getting the resources that it needed to move forward.
Did we get something in the bingo card? We already had Mass Effect mentioned. I had the Mass Effect favorite child situation. Oh, it pisses me off. Because I'm gonna let him talk, and then I'm gonna like give you my 2 cents.
After Inquisition, some of that is having a lot of difficulty getting the resources that it needed to move forward after Inquisition.
Okay, so she just said Dragon Age as an IP had difficulty getting the resources it needed after Inquisition. They're not mentioning after Origins or after Dragon Age 2. After Inquisition. Inquisition is the third fucking title in the... Okay? And you're telling me that it took 3 games for you to realize that, I'm not the favorite child. Mass Effect is. Bitch. First of all, everyone knew that Mass Effect was the most popular out of all the IPs that BioWare has. it just blew up and it became really, popular amongst like RPG enjoyers. And even to this day, Mass Effect was always, like the game that people know and people still replay over and over again to this day, just because the system and the gameplay was much more modern and it was much more user friendly. It wasn't classical RPG, it was action RPG. Okay, and it was the a standard for BioWare. Like BioWare had its thing with Mass Effect, like the Mass Effect saga. That's what BioWare literally created, like the whole voice protagonist wheel of dialogue wheel and whatever. Like that was patented in Mass Effect. Okay, and a lot of people became aware that Dragon Age even existed because they played Mass Effect. So I don't understand why. And he's saying, oh, we started like losing resources after Dragon Age Inquisition. Maybe because you were given money and resources and you did terrible, you put out Inquisition.
Some of that is EA doesn't like spending money, and so
this is such a fucking, that's so stupid when we know Veilguard got $200 million. They blew. Ooh. And again, they don't like spending money. Bro, video games 15 years ago were made with $50 and 3 people. So what are you talking about? Like, Mass Effect 2, Dragon Age 2 had no time and no money and still is a better game than Veilguard. So it's just excuses. It's the same old excuses of we didn't have enough money, we didn't have enough time, the devs were overworked, the devs, were not the favorite devs. Shut the fuck up.
Oh, I think one of the things that's different about BioWare compared to most of the other studios within EA's umbrella is we tried to do multiple things at the same time. And so even if you look at like DICE, basically they're just doing one thing at a time, and sometimes that does really well and sometimes it doesn't do so well. But that umbrella of people is the size that it is, and they can push it to make it bigger very slowly. But when you're doing 2, 3, 5 things at a time, if you want to do multiple things at the same time, you need to be big. And what was happening was a lot of cannibalization. I think one of the reasons that Casey probably left in 2014 was because he was leading Anthem.
Mind you, this man didn't leave. This man didn't, find any of this terrible until 2020, okay? He came back as a consultant around 2022. He didn't find any problems with BioWare and EA until 2020.
Dragon Age was taking up all
They
of the
mentioned
people.
Anthem mentioned? Click it. Again, if you guys want to join the bingo, be my guest. We should have said making games is hard. They just give you like thousands upon thousands of dollars to make it. It's hard. Oh my god, you don't have time and you don't have people. Ugh.
And then the thing that was coming next was Andromeda, and he could see the writing on the wall that he was going to not get any people either. So was Mass Effect getting... Did EA like Mass Effect better than Dragon Age? I think they did. Was that the cause of Dragon Age not getting the people that it needed? That I'm not as certain about. I think that might just be the structure of BioWare and the fiscal conservatism of EA not quite.
Fiscal conservatism. EA didn't give us money. You are lying through your teeth. Lying through your teeth. This is insane. How much money is enough money? Like, how are we this entitled? Because you yourself are saying, oh, there's multiple big-ass projects in the works. And obviously, Mass Effect Andromeda, being a sequel or a fucking spin-off of Mass Effect, is gonna get more funding simply because there is the bigger game, is the most popular game. But what more money do you want? Also, again, they are saying, like he said, oh, after Dragon Age Inquisition, we started seeing that we had less funding, less resources, less money. But we also know that after Inquisition, the game that came out was Veilguard. And Veilguard got $200 million. How much money is enough fucking money?
Meshing together properly. But yeah, like, I mean, we reported into part of the sports organization, which is hilarious.
Oh, wow.
And at one point, like so I'm like, that red book that's behind me there, where is it? Right there. Okay. That was a book that was made to basically send within the EA organization to say, Dragon Age is a thing. Don't forget about us. We're trying to get people. Please let us hire people. Let us get people. And in early 2017, I talked to the person who, like, the studio reported into. He was amazed I hadn't quit a year earlier, because we weren't getting the people. So
it was a real uphill battle. I know something you've talked about. By the way, I should shout it out. You have a phenomenal YouTube channel, Darrah on Games. People should check it out.
No, don't check it out.
Over there, you talked about how BioWare over time had just kind of slimmed their project focus. Do you think that's for the better then, given your struggle with gathering resources, or do you think there was another answer during your time there?
I do think that. So I've thought about this a lot, and I think within EA, you're better off being one game at a time. When people think, like, why, this is going to be highly simplified, but when people think, okay, Battlefield 4 shipped, and it was really rocky at launch, and DICE spent the time and the resources necessary to fix that game up. Sims 4 launched and had a really rocky launch. Same thing. The studio spent the time to fix it up and make it great. Those two studios.
I cannot speak about Battlefield, okay? But The Sims 4, again, it's Delusion Town. We're living in Delusion Town. Delusion Town. The Sims 4 is the worst Sims in existence. I don't care about Linda, I don't care about your opinion. I don't care about it. It is what it is. It's terrible. It's terrible. It's terrible. And the fact that, they had time to just work on that, and then they had time to, like, fix things about it. Like, listen, I understand that games like Battlefield, games like FIFA, games like The Sims 4, they're always gonna have 100 people on deck at all times. Because they're the money makers. And I am sorry that you think, like, listen, Dragon Age is my favorite fucking video game of all time. Unfortunately for me, Dragon Age Origins is the game for me, okay? That's the love of my life right there. And throughout the years, I have seen it, like, die of sickness. That's, it feels like I've, been at his bedside while it's dying from cancer. And it's slipping away from me. But we knew that, you're working for a company. And they're always gonna, have a priority. And just because you have a passion project doesn't mean that, you're gonna touch the hearts of these fucking businessmen, okay? You're not. And what you do is show that you're actually skilled at your job. You did that. You did that with Origins. You did that to a degree with Dragon Age 2. It was there. It was there. The formula was there. The story was there. It was there. What happened was, and it is what it is, and again, I don't fucking like the idea of, it's BioWare's fault. because I'm not working for BioWare anymore. But while I was working for BioWare, everything was fine. It's EA's fault. And now that I'm not, it's BioWare's fault and EA's fault and everyone's fault. It's never the devs' fault. It's never the writer's fault. And that doesn't track because, the same company that you're trashing, okay? Leave the multi-billionaire company alone, but the same company that you're fucking trashing is the one that hired every single writer that was a senior writer for Veilguard. It's the same fucking company that hired Corinne Bush, that they moved, they're saying, oh, they kept moving developers and writers from Dragon Age to work on Mass Effect. Well, they fucking moved people from other projects to work on Veilguard because, they had expectations and they had hope that these people who claim to be very good at their jobs were gonna be good at their jobs. Turns out they weren't. But there's not a single, word of criticism. I'm not asking them to hate them. But it's the same thing with David Gator. David Gator was fucking going to war for Veilguard, only for the game to fucking crash and burn at release, and for him to admit, well, I would not have done Veilguard that way. I would not have continued the story that way. David Gator! So sorry if I don't care that, that you think it's not your fault and it's nobody's fault. It's BioWare's fault. I need to talk to someone that works at a, relatively big studio. So I know if these fucking suit and tie people are that involved in projects. Aside from telling you, hey, make sure that the deluxe edition costs $50 more and it has a couple skins, okay? How involved are these fucking people in the work of a studio for them to be it's their fault? It's not my fault, it's their fault. Because I get it. There are always gonna be bosses telling you to do your job when they don't know what the fuck they're talking about. But at the end of the day, are they that involved in every single step of making a game? Are they though?
Studios had nothing else. If Battlefield 4 wasn't working, you basically had to shut the studio down. If Sims 4 wasn't working, you basically had to shut Maxis down. With BioWare, if Andromeda isn't working, there are 2 other projects desperate for those people. So I think EA does not like failure and is eager to move on.
No way! Listen. I never thought you motherfuckers would have me defending fucking multi-billionaire companies. But the fact that we're pointing, sticking our hand in the fire and be oh, that's hot. Sticking our hand in the fucking water, oh, that's wet. Wow, companies don't like losing money. Wow, I'm sorry. Do you guys just hear that? I'm hearing this for the first time. Companies don't like losing money? That explains, wait. That puts so much into perspective. Also, fuck that thought of if Mass Effect fails, then they can rely on this. And if this fails, no.
On from failure. But if there's nothing else, the studio is saying, no, we can fix this. But if the studio isn't saying that, it's not that Dragon Age and Anthem were just desperate to chew up all of the Andromeda people after Andromeda had trouble at launch, but they also weren't actively saying, if you don't let us do this, we're going to have to fire 150 people. They were saying, well, we got jobs for them. Highly simplified.
Yeah.
But I do think that, given that, I think that, within EA, BioWare is better off being one game at a time.
I love that he admits that for a developer and writer's point of view, BioWare working in multiple games, which again, and I'm going to say it, this is not the bingo, but I'm going to say it, it is a competitive market. And a game studio of BioWare's proportions, who is a subsidiary of EA, it makes sense for them to work on multiple. This is not a small studio, a small indie studio of 30 people are working on 4 games simultaneously. Scratch that from your fucking minds, okay? We're not talking about a small studio. They only have 50 people working. No, we're talking about hundreds upon hundreds of people working in BioWare alone. Then you have Maxis, then you have, other studios that are subsidiaries for EA who are getting funds, practically unlimited funds, okay? And as much as Darrah wants to make it seem like they got like fucking, a pack of cigarettes and $50 to make Dragon Age happen, that's not the case because, again, we know Veilguard, the game that allegedly was the one that had the least, resources after Inquisition. EA, turn off the plug and they didn't have resources or access to money. It had $200 million to work with, Veilguard. And it had probably a studio of hundreds of people working on Veilguard alone. And he's also saying like, it's better if they work on just one title at a time. When he just admitted that, if one of them fails, again, with hundreds of people working in it, if one of those titles fails, EA doesn't fire them. EA, says, okay, let's move you to another project. So he prefers for the writers and developers to be just fired, which we'll have to tell you just how terrible. He just admitted that writers and developers, after a failure like Andromeda, get moved to other projects, okay? So when Veilguard failed, some people got moved to another project. Most people got fired. So that goes to show that it's a pattern of behavior here where they cannot be kept because they cannot be useful. They're not good enough to work on other projects. So, which one is it? Were they fired because the trolls got them fired, or because they have been moved to other projects and simply just they don't pull their fucking weight? Right.
100% of their talent focused on doing one game at a time. No rivalries between the different projects. No fighting over resources. It's just like we're all in on one thing. Maybe there's a back burner tiny thing, but not 2 or 3 or 4 entire project lines in open warfare over resources.
Okay, interesting. So as someone who's been there since the start, and you've seen, you've been there when you're a 3-project team, then a 2-project team, then I guess, and this is just your opinion as someone who's worked there and you don't work there anymore, but is this something where you think this is going to be better for the team? Like a lot of people look forward like at the next Mass Effect, and it's like, is your expectation like this should be less messy maybe compared to prior development cycles? Obviously not casting this on them one way or the other, but just from your experience and the outside looking in.
I do think this is less messy. I do think that also, to be frank, the Mass Effect team is going to be able to point to the Veilguard and say, we should steer away from some of these things because look what happened. So I do think, and I would honestly encourage that team to scapegoat Veilguard as much as they need to get what they need from the organization.
A scapegoat? Pause, Marky Mark. Pause! Because you're making it seem like it would be like, oh, Veilguard doesn't deserve to be used as a scapegoat, but I guess I would encourage you to use it. Use it as a scapegoat. It is the scapegoat. It's not even it's a fucking malnourished goat. It's a dying goat. The fuck are you talking about? Sure, I hope and pray to any gods fucking listening that every single person working on Mass Effect 5 are like, okay, they have a fucking PowerPoint of, this is what Veilguard did, don't do anything. Don't do any of this. You see this? Steer clear of this. Please. But don't make it seem like, well, I guess Veilguard will become the scapegoat because someone has to take the blame, and BioWare is not gonna take the blame. So I guess Veilguard will have to do shut the fuck up.
It is
whether it's true or not. Just
yeah,
because I do think it's going to be less messy. I think is the best way. Is it
okay?
We are in a world. The problem with being single project is you have this sort of boom and bust thing happening where it's like you get really big and then you have to slim down. Now EA seems to be trying to move to some sort of model where people flow within the overall organization a lot more. So maybe that will be fine. Maybe that'll work out great, but remains to be seen.
Got it. On that note, then, Inquisition, as you've documented on your Twitter account, best-selling BioWare game of all time, 12+ million copies sold. Game of the
Year, but that's with Veilguard. Oh, they're gonna piss me off. Oh, GOTY, because we know how important Game of the Year is, right? Game of the Year, that's a staple. That's
the year winner, and yet EA seems inclined to want to make Mass Effect the primary focus for BioWare's future. And I think after Veilguard and just the reception and the conversation, like you mentioned, the scapegoating, it makes a lot of sense.
Get scapegoating, Maddie Place. If you were the first one after the fucking crash and burn of Veilguard to come out and say, it's not my fault. EA tricked me. EA tricked me into thinking this game was good, but the game is really bad. I'm sorry. And now you're backpedaling and be like, oh, no, yeah, Veilguard was great. It's just like the scapegoat. Shut the... Oh, my God.
But if there is a future for Dragon Age, what do you think that is? Or is there one really at all?
No.
I'm not sure who pitches that game within EA. That's what it would come down to. There would need to be someone at BioWare or potentially someone within EA more broadly that would be willing to go out on the limb and say, I want to pitch another Dragon Age.
No. BioWare, listen, Dragon Age is dead. And if I was saying this 5 years ago, okay, 2 years ago, that would hurt me. That would pain me in my soul to be saying these words. Dragon Age is dead and buried. We had a funeral, we all gathered around. We put a little flowers in the casket. We went home. We had some coffee. We cried. It's been dead, okay? The only way for Dragon Age, which is what they should have fucking done from the beginning, for Dragon Age to resurface, to, climb from the fucking earth as a zombie, would be to remaster or / remake the previous games. You cannot put out a new fucking game 15 years after the previous one where you obviously know that people are not that familiar with it because, again, Mass Effect was the most popular one and Mass Effect has been in people's minds since it came until, the only way for this to slightly work would be to remake the previous ones, to remaster them, to get them out there for younger audiences, for people that didn't like the way that the originals one played because it didn't they didn't age well. Because I will be the first one to admit, you will have to love RPGs and you will have to love the setting for Dragon Age to work through the original ones. You really will have to. And if you want, you will just play Inquisition, and Inquisition is such a nasty first experience as for to introduce yourself to the Dragon Age setting. It's the worst fucking way to introduce yourself to the setting. But if they had done the proper steps of remaking the games, getting people familiar with the setting and the story and the saga again and the IP, and then attempted to do Veilguard was always gonna fail no matter what. But, maybe bring back the hype around Dragon Age. Maybe people would have forgiven Veilguard the way some people have forgiven Andromeda and be like, okay, let's pretend that Veilguard was a spin-off and I'm gonna allow you to try again. Like, you can try again. Last chance, but you can try again. After Veilguard, people don't want, like, the thing is, it wasn't great. Andromeda wasn't great, but it wasn't terrible. Andromeda, aside from like people being flabbergasted at just the lack of animations and the overall roughness of the project, it's not a terrible game. It's not a bad game in the slightest. It didn't have people foaming at the mouth. It had people disappointed, but it didn't have them foaming at the mouth. Veilguard had people foaming at the mouth. BioWare didn't know where to hide when the entirety of Veilguard happened. There's no coming back from Veilguard. There's not. You would have to wait 20 years or 30 for the people that, like me, to forget about it. Okay? You cannot come back from Veilguard. It's impossible. People are not willing to forget Veilguard the way that they forgot, forgave Andromeda. You can't. And especially, like people are mentioning, especially not when there's so much competition that it's good competition. Like, you have Owlcat pumping out content. Because, again, we are hearing excuses of not enough people, not enough founding, not enough time. And then you have fucking studios that are much, 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 much smaller than BioWare. Pumping out CRPGs. Now with Expedition 33, they have no fucking leg to stand on. Not a single leg to stand on. Because it just simply, their justifications and their excuses don't hold water at all. Because people are doing this in a cave with scraps. So no.
Game. Here's my vision of it. I think there are more games to be made there, but I'm not sure how it gets started right now.
It won't get started.
It feels like the arc really concluded with Veilguard. So, as a fan,
I'm sorry. I think they were trying to give me an ad right there. Como que as a fan?
I would like to just see the reset button hit. I think a lot of people would be more open to that rather than a continuation. Would you kind of align with that, or like where would you ideally take it in a perfect world? If you're able to answer that, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not pitching a Dragon Age to EA right now, so yeah, I don't know what I'd want to do, to be honest. To go forward with it. I mean, I honestly think they should do. I don't think they will, but I think they should do a remaster of the first three. I mean, one of the things.
Duh! What did I just say? What did I just say?
Things that we pitched at one point pretty softly. So pitch is a massive overstatement.
So you guys didn't do shit. You guys didn't do your fucking job. You didn't pitch shit. You complain like, well, they didn't listen to me. They didn't listen to me about the because you didn't actually pitch shit.
Was to kind of retroactively rebrand the first three games as if they were a trilogy, and call it like the Champions trilogy. So you have these sort of big, larger than life heroes. You've got the hero Ferelden. You've got the like what Kirkwall. What is this? Whatever we call Hawk.
And then
the champion of Kirkwall. You fucking bitch. Whatever we call Hawk. The champion of Kirkwall. Keep my wife's name out of your fucking mouth.
And then you've got the Inquisitor. So I think maybe you do that as a first step. Is take those three games, and maybe Veilguard. But you take those three games, you
que Veilguard ni que Veilguard, no,
shine them up. You re-release them, probably remaster, probably not a remake. See what happens, and then maybe go from there. I'm very curious to see, No.
He said Inquisition was his favorite to work on, which it's a red flag.
In a weird, twisted way, the Mass Effect franchise and the Dragon Age franchise kind of are in similar states, where they have a trilogy of games that are pretty well received, and then a fourth game that's less well received. And I'll be curious to see what Mass Effect does with Mass 5. Is like how does Andromeda fit in there? Like, what is
It can't fit.
I don't know. I mean, I've seen the same stuff you've seen, so I don't know what they're doing.
It cannot
Sure.
fit.
Yeah, no, I'm in the same boat, man. On that note of what we call as a community the Dragon Age Legendary Edition, right? Like what you guys basically did for Mass Effect so badly. I was trying to champion it on the channel. I was like, you got to do it for Dragon Age. So it's very interesting to hear that you guys, I mean, you said soft pitch, so like I don't want to carry it like a mile further than that, but like why wasn't that like a hard press? Was it just not like an urgent thing? Because I feel like as a fan, you know, when we walked away from Andromeda, we walked away from Anthem, I think a lot of people forgot what BioWare did so well. And then Legendary Edition for Mass Effect comes around, and there was that first time in a while it was like positivity, optimism around BioWare and their games, and I was like, oh, I think people kind of forgot. And so I wondered if Dragon Age Legendary Edition would be the next obvious step. So was there a reason why that wasn't pressed any harder internally?
EA's historically been, and I don't really know why, but they've even said this publicly, they're kind of against remasters. I don't really know why. It's strange for a publicly traded company to basically seem to be
It pisses me off so much. Oh, it's like, oh, EA is evil because they made me do this. And EA is also evil because they didn't do this. It's like, shut up. You worked for them, bro. You chose to work for them.
Free money, but they seem to be against it. So but that's part of it. The other problem is that Dragon Age is harder than Mass Effect to do. And to some degree, unknowably harder. Maybe only a little bit harder. Maybe a lot harder. I mean, we had various...
I'm sorry. If Bethesda could make a semi-decent remake of Oblivion, there's no way that's in any way, like, you know, like Origins is in any way harder to make.
Like one of the very earliest things for, I guess Joplin, I think it was Joplin, was like, let's do a version, let's do Frostbite tools. So let's make, and then let's find a mod house that seems talented and just uplift them and pay them to do a remake of Dragon Age Origins. Like there were lots of pitches around like...
I didn't like the remaster of Oblivion.
Is there a way we can bring Dragon Age Origins forward? And depending on what you do, like a remaster, you kind of get Dragon Age 2 for free. A remake, you don't. So...
Gotcha. Yeah, man, that as a fan, that's so tough to hear because I'm like, it's great to know at least.
I mean, that's Matty Shields. Didn't I have that here? Matty Shields. Fucking click that. Click that on the goddamn bingo. It's Matty Shields. As a fan, as a fan of BioWare and your job, that's shilling 101. Okay, like shut the fuck up. Stop it. Stop.
At least BioWare proper knew that's what a lot of people were really looking for. It's a shame that it seems like EA was sort of serving as a blocker with what they seek in their portfolio.
And to some degree, I mean, the studios run their financials within themselves. So I mean,
so is it EA not giving you enough money, or now it's BioWare's fault because they manage their own finances? Which one is it? Does that count as like? I feel like he's blamed BioWare already. Like it's BioWare's fault. And I'm really thinking about this one, like the whole fucking like a scapegoat situation. I want to see if they talk more about.
I think to some degree, EA's stance was probably, sure, go ahead and do it, but do it with the money you already have. And it's like, well, we can't do it with the money that we already have because we're doing all these other things. Yeah, one of the advantages that Mass Effect has for a remaster over Dragon Age, well, I mean, a bunch of advantages. One, it's all Unreal instead of two different engines. But actually, just the fact that it's Unreal means that you can remaster Mass Effect essentially for money. If you're willing to spend money on it, you can go to an external house and they can do most of the work, which is sort of what happened with Legendary Edition. There were a bunch of people
if Mass
at
Effect
BioWare working
doesn't
on it, but
do
it
well,
was
very well.
But it was not a ton.
And
whereas if you're going to do Mass Effect, you basically have to do it. You either have to spin up a brand new team that's going to learn this really, really crotchety old tech base, or you got to do it all in house. And that's harder because
gets back to a bit of the resource war that you were talking about, right?
Yeah, like EA doesn't like spending money, but the thing that EA likes even less than spending money is hiring people permanently, because
sorry, I don't mean to laugh.
But I mean, it's all public companies, right?
It's so funny to me because most of the people working on Veilguard were veterans, were people that were working on the company for over 20 years. And the fact that you can come out and publicly say, like, oh, they hate hiring people, long term. Maybe because most positions are fucking filled by people that have been working there for 20 years and losing them money for 20 years. I don't know. Maybe that's me.
Yeah.
Because money is money. It's like, okay, we spent $10 million to do this. It's a one-time thing, and that's it. We spent it and we got 20 million back. Great, good spend. If I hire a person, that person's now a person I have to pay for forever. And EA knows that laying people off makes them look bad. And so, like, they don't want to do that if they don't have to.
Yet again, if they don't have to, is what you said.
And so, like, they don't want to do that if they don't have to.
And what happened with Veilguard? Did they fire people in droves for Veilguard? Right, because at that point, keeping them in the company made them look worse than firing them did. And if that doesn't tell you enough about the quality of the team working on Veilguard, I don't know what would.
So they really don't like hiring people if they can.
And again, they spent,
it, of course.
$200 million on Veilguard, not 20
but
million.
You can't really remaster Dragon Age.
$200 million. It's a lot of zeros.
You have to probably do it internally.
Interesting. A bigger lift. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting insight there. All right, let's look a bit at Anthem here, because right now there's the whole Stop Killing Games initiative that's ongoing. I know you spoke about that a little bit. I watched your video on it, so we can get into that a bit. But with Anthem now, it's officially servers are being shut down. Even as someone who wasn't like a huge fan of Anthem, I do find myself always concerned with the games industry's ability to do away with any form of art, the best of it, the misstep.
I am very sorry. Am I sad that Anthem is gone? No. Like, I don't understand, like, this. You cannot. Again, they're complaining, right? They're constantly complaining, like, oh yeah, EA is a penny pincher. EA is a penny pincher. Keeping the servers up costs money. I am surprised that it took them this long. Like, again, Joker is saying, like, I don't know if most of us knew that the servers for Anthem were still up in 2025. And the fact that people are trying to spin it like, oh, it's so sad to see it go. Is it, though? It's not a good game. And the fact that EA was willing to put money into keeping the servers up says to me that there's, like, someone is obviously lying here. So I don't understand.
The licensed games, and I try not to live in a fully idealistic world, of like, man, we got to keep everything. Like, I get some of it goes, but I feel like it's an important part of BioWare's history. And so how do you wrestle with knowing something you spent a lot of time on goes away forever? No one can pick that up and touch it. They can sure go on YouTube and watch it, but I don't know. There's something that feels, and maybe it's because I've been working on my own stuff where I think about that idea of like, oh, it's just gone forever.
What is he working on? What is he working on? He's not working on that game. Right? He's not working on that game, is he? Don't work on games. Don't even attempt. Don't even. Mari, don't.
It's just a piece of software you delete it, goodbye. It just makes me sad when I think about this stuff. So how do you feel as someone who is working on this project?
Yeah, I mean, I knew it was going to happen eventually. To be frank, I'm surprised it made it this long. I was always, I needed to capture footage because eventually I'm going to do a video on Anthem. And it's hilarious that I did my first stream of it, and then the next day they announced.
I thought you knew.
I did not know. Yeah, I totally caught me by surprise. So much so that I was like, did they forget that Anthem existed? And I reminded them of, which of course is not true, because they would have been working on that language for months before. So it was totally coincidence.
I was gonna say that Anthem looks exactly like Andromeda.
But
exactly like Andromeda.
So I always knew it was going to go away eventually. And like I talk about in the video on it, Anthem could have been built in a way that where this wouldn't be necessary. Now, there are things that BioWare basically, like Destiny has very sophisticated bits of technology for host migration, and it's Destiny's peer-to-peer. And we didn't know how to do that. And we frankly couldn't afford to do that.
So no. I'm more interested in the bit that you said first of we didn't know how to do that. So you're just admitting that the people working there were incompetent. And that's how, and then we go by like, oh, we didn't have enough money. But even if you had enough money, you didn't know how to make it happen. It doesn't matter how much money you have. You guys are just not good at your jobs. And it is what it is.
But we could have done something. But it would have been an uglier game, probably would have had more latency issues. Like it would have been a worse experience second to second in order to get something that basically wouldn't need to ever be sunset. I think we all need to think about, is that the world we want? And kind of, I think maybe it is, that we want to be in a world where we're willing to sacrifice some fidelity, sacrifice some things in order to get it so that games don't just vanish one day.
No.
I do believe in game preservation, and we're losing a lot of stuff right now.
Yeah.
Things are disappearing. I mean, people won't even. I mean, forget Anthem, which was at least out for almost 7 years by the time it'll go down. I mean, almost 7 years. I mean, like I like. What about Concord?
What a majestic argument right there. What a majestic argument right there, Mark Darrah. My dude, yeah. What about Concord, guys? Isn't it sad that Concord is gone? I wasn't expecting him to mention Concord. I'm not gonna fucking lie to you guys. This is not the game I was expecting him to mention to be sad about losing, okay? Concord, brother? Concord is So you're comparing Anthem and Concord. But what are we doing? Who are we? Does anyone know? Where are we? Who are we? What are we doing here? Are we here just to suffer? Because what the fuck is this absolutely dogshit logic of, well, at least Anthem had some, time to live its life. But what about Concord? It didn't have time. I'm not gonna give you time. I'm not gonna give you time and money to make a game better. The game should be good at release. And if it disappears as the consequence of its fucking disgustness and hubris, that's the problem. That's its problem. It's not my problem. Wow, I was not expecting Concord to be... That one got me a little bit.
Down, I mean, almost 7 years. I mean, like, I like, what about Concord? Like, I mean, there's
2 weeks.
There's something interesting from a science perspective of being able to play Concord and go, what happened here? But you're not gonna. It's gone. It's gone forever.
Yeah, like I try to always define game developers as like scientists, and I feel like.
Okay. I like to think of game developers as scientists. Bitches, do you guys think that you are fucking inventing the cure for cancer or something? Bitch. Wow.
it's obviously for a lot of players, they're like, they'll hear Concord and they'll be like, who gives a shit? I'm like, well,
Yeah.
I get that from the player angle, but like for those who are learning or studying, like having that product available to pick it up and be like, in the case of Concord, like a lot of people point to the character design. It's like you look at those characters and maybe they're aspiring character artists.
So it's exactly what you said about Anthem. There is footage to study. If a game developer wants to pick up, like what not to do for a game, they can just look at footage of Concord and be like, okay, the game design is not, great. The character design is not great. That you can see it. You don't have to play it to see that it's shit. Wow.
So look at that and go like, okay, let's see what went wrong here. What doesn't, like,
I think
you can find
generic.
Yeah. And I think I always say like playing is believing. Like there's something different between just Google searching something versus putting your hands on it, messing around with it, hearing.
No, because again, that means that I have to pay. Concord is not free. I have to pay money to play it. It's about, well, you cannot criticize. I can criticize it. The same way that if I fucking watch a trailer for a movie and it doesn't, catch my eye, I'm not gonna have to. I don't want to pay money to the ticket to the movie to sit there and be like, oh, this is shit, to get up and go home. I am sorry. Okay? I am sorry. I do believe that if you're gonna, if you're gonna criticize something at length, like I did with Veilguard, the very least you could do is a study, which I did. I study the footage that is available to you. And if it's, if you can, play the game. Play it, at least a little bit, whatever, sure. But the whole thing of like, you have to play it. You have to play it to really, really
everything coming together, because it's not ever just one facet that makes something bad.
Yeah, so all my feeling on Stop Killing Games is that, like, let's acknowledge that there are consequences to basically mandating that things not go away for forever, but maybe those are consequences that we want to pay. Like, that we want to accept. I mean, like I said in the video, like, we don't let chemical companies just flush their toxic waste into the nearest stream. There are consequences to us not letting them do it. It costs them money to not do that. But we've decided correctly as a society that that's a cost that we're willing to make them pay.
Boys, wait! I don't care. If the game is bad, nobody's playing it, and I didn't remember that it exists, I don't care. If it's flushed down the toilet like a little, dead goldfish. What are we talking about? I'm sorry if you're like, oh, don't kill games. Who cares? Who cares? If it's a bad game and nobody plays it, nobody knows it exists, I don't care. I'm not gonna weep for Concord. I'm not. And if they can put that fucking money that they're wasting on keeping the servers for Anthem or Concord alive into making another thing, put in another thing. Welcome to society where, the wheel keeps on spinning and spinning and spinning. And it's always going to be like this. I don't understand what is going on here.
And there is a line here somewhere
for science.
Where we're saying, yeah, you know what? We do want you to have to, well, at the very least, disclose something. Like I said, like, I feel like, I don't know. I don't know, because there's a bunch of different, there's games preservation, there's the educational part of it, and then there's customer rights protections, and they're all different. They all have slightly different answers, I feel. Yeah. If I told you, when you bought Anthem, if it said on the box, the servers will go down no earlier than January 10th, 2026, I mean, people would have probably said, wow. The servers are going to be up for almost 7 years. That's amazing. And it's like, okay, so then it's like, that's more information than you've been getting in the past. That's good from a customer rights perspective. It doesn't solve the preservation or the educational side of it. So I don't know. So my feeling at the end of the day is we probably need something, and I just don't know what that looks like yet.
It's impossible. Nothing is forever. Nothing. We are not forever. Games are not forever. Movies are not forever. Nothing is forever. Okay? And to pretend otherwise is just fucking ridiculous. Because this just like goes to show that it's like, oh, all of a sudden it's an issue that this very obscure game that nobody has thought about for the past 20 years, this game getting delisted or disappearing, how dare you? How dare you in my backlog of 1,073 games that I have on Steam, not counting the ones that I have on Epic Game and I have on Xbox, how dare you fucking remove that one game that I couldn't even remember the name of? Nothing is forever, okay? Like, and the way that they're trying to spin it, like, oh, it's for, like, it's a piece of, like, Egyptian art in a museum that you can learn about past civilizations from this piece of media. Anthem in 50 years could have, solved the problem about live service games in the industry forever, but we lost it. Do you think it's the Holy Grail? Like, are we really comparing fucking video games to pieces of art that have historical connotation and cultural connotation in museums? Is that what we're doing here? Are we making, it's ridiculous. It's fucking ridiculous. It's fucking stupid, and it's dumb. It's dumb, and it's dumb. Okay? Listen, yeah, what is next? Are you guys gonna open a fucking museum? And you're gonna put a fucking, this is the last physical copy of Concord in history. Gaze upon it. Video games are not art, okay? Stop thinking of you as, it's not a Van Gogh piece, okay? Call of Duty is not the Mona Lisa. They're entertainment. Please, I am begging of you, they're entertainment. No. This is my nice fucking straw right here. They're entertainment, and it's okay for them to be entertainment. They don't have to be anything more than that. They don't have to, teach you a lesson, okay? Doom doesn't teach me a lesson. When I play Doom because I want to blow up demons to smithereens and bathe upon their blood, okay? It's not teaching me a lesson. I'm not learning anything from fucking Doom aside that I like the music and I like when the fucking demons go boom boom, okay? Not everything is an art form. Not everything is an indie game that, makes you cry for 20 hours. And not everything has to be. And it's okay to admit to that we're not connoisseurs, okay? It's not like 100-year-old aged wine. It's video games. It's entertainment. The same way that most movies, they're entertainment. Not everything has to be Oscar bait. Not everything has to be gaudy, okay? It's okay. It's okay if you like that really shitty, buggy game that 2 people worked on and that's your favorite game of all time. Power to you, bro. Power to you. That's great. I love, but you don't have to defend it like it's fucking art. It isn't, okay? Like, you guys, like, that's is like, you guys sound like those people that defend, like, seeing a toilet in an art exposition. And it's like, it's not just a toilet, okay? And when you open it, that's not just the shit. It's an allegory for society. No, it's just a toilet that has a fucking turd in it. It's fine. It's fine to admit it, and it's fine to enjoy it. It's fine to look at it and be like, huh, that's cool. It's fine. But stop. Let's stop pretending that, video games are art. And developers are artists. Most developers that work on games, Call of Duty, Dragon Age, Mass Effect, any fucking game that you can think of, they're working. Do you think every person that works at fucking Walmart likes Walmart? Do you think every person that works at fucking McDonald's likes McDonald's? Or are they going to work? Are they doing it for a paycheck? Okay? It's okay. It's okay. Not everything has to be defended, and not everything is a lesson, and not everything is a moment to learn. Okay? And it's fine to admit that. You're not lesser than, it's okay to just go to work. Do your work well and go back home. That's okay.
Saw a good theory on a game developer Reddit thread, and they said that changing some of the verbiage around the purchasing might help. Like you mentioned the servers, but also just like if I say we'll use Anthem, like it's a live service game,
right?
Subscribe or something along those lines.
I do think that we've the industry you can't I think we're going to lose that what we're doing right now, which is we tell you that you buy a game, but then you read the EULA and you clearly aren't. It's like, okay, pick one.
Yeah.
And maybe everyone is picking a different thing.
But I don't know. Did we miss? Let's pause for a second there. Did we miss anything? We're missing Veilguard Game of the Year mentioned. I will hide my fucking water somewhere else. I'm missing Inclusivity mentioned. Veilguard was a good game. We're missing Toxic Gamers. Veilguard was a success. Writing style. Blames the fans. Focus shifted. BioWare returned to form. Review bombing. Then you have the free. If you have to use it to get the bingo, you use it. It blames political climate. The devs didn't have enough time. Modern audience. Competitive market. Devs are overworked / forced to work on Mass Effect. Which I think he did mention that they were working on other projects. So I don't know if I'm going to give you guys this one or not. I think you guys would have to talk about it. They have numbers of players engaged, expectations too high, doesn't address any criticism, which that's going to be 100% a thing, and best Dragon Age to date. I don't know if they're going to say that.
I suspect that if we force the big publishers to pick one, they're just going to pick license. And it's just going to say, yeah, you don't, and it's like you license everything, including the single player things. And then maybe it's worse.
Yeah. Well, on that note, I have Veilguard questions, but I want to just stick with this for a little bit here because the industry is at what I would call like a major crossroads. Funding, game sales, layoff.
The way if they fucking mention like, oh, they don't have enough money, when fucking how much money is Rockstar putting into GTA 6? Can anyone tell me? Because it was a ridiculous fucking number, if I remember correctly. Can anyone tell me how much money they were putting into the new GTA? Because that was public information. And I don't know if it was something like crazy. It felt crazy when I heard it, but I don't remember. But if they're going to mention like, oh, we don't have enough funding, we don't have enough resources, when they have never had more resources and funding, like, and more people. Like, we're talking about studios of hundreds upon hundreds of people. 2 billion. The new GTA. 2 that's a B. It's not an M. It's a billion dollars for GTA. They better not mention that they don't have enough money or, because I'm going to crash out.
Offs, consolidation, AI, game prices, a lot of hot button topics. And I want to know what you think about
game
the current
stake,
economy for games.
minimum
right? You've
5
been
years
part
to
of
come
this
out.
Since
And they
98.
cost
You've seen
at
the
least
ups, the downs.
150 million.
Are you feeling concerns like others? Or I've seen some argue like it's regulating a bit. I've seen others saying platform holders such as Xbox are doing a bit of, say, chasing for that, that next like Fortnite. They're all looking for those. I call them the black hole games, the sinister sticks.
Yeah.
Like they just grab these like one game and it just absorbs millions and millions each month. There's also the indie side, which I call them a bit of unicorn hunters right now. A lot of them are just looking for their next Balatro. Like I spent this much and I got that much. So where do you kind of fall when it comes to the general economy of games, seeing it grow and change so much?
I mean, last year it was survive till 25, and this year's definitely put the lie to that because it's more brutal this year than last year from everything that I can.
Does that count as competitive market, guys? Does this conversation count as competitive market? You guys think? What do you guys think?
Let's see.
We forgot to talk about the AI.
It seemed like in the insides of the business part of it, it seemed like you were starting to see the beginnings of we're bouncing off the bottom. So you were seeing the small money, like the people that invest in the very early starts of projects and studios and that.
I think they're talking about the market, right? Again. Like, oh, they're competing, like they're making the next Fortnite, but then they're trying to make the next Balatro. They're trying, like, I think they're talking about the competitive market, right?
But then this year
Let us
seems
have it. Let us have it.
shakier than ever. I mean, the reason why we have live service, so many live services, is because a successful live service, a Fortnite, makes all the money. And Microsoft and EA and Ubisoft and Sony and all these companies would be perfectly happy. In fact, they would be more happy if they each had 5 live services that made all the money and no other games. But we don't want that. I don't think anyone who plays games really wants the industry to look like
That's
that.
what I'm fucking saying, Armenians. Like the whole, like, we didn't have enough money. When, games like Clair Obscur Expedition 33 had, like, 1/5 of that budget and a third of the people working on it. Like, they literally had 33 people working on it. And all it shows is that you need talented people at the helm, right? Because people that worked in Expedition 33, the heads of the studio were veterans. I don't know if they were Ubisoft veterans. And then they took people that didn't even think about becoming developers or writers or musicians. They took people that were just young, extremely young, and extremely talented out of everywhere they could. Reddit, SoundCloud, like anywhere. And they helped them grow into their talent. They nurture them. And it just shows that people like Mark Darrah and David Gator and, like all these old people that worked in BioWare, they were just very comfortable being the person in charge and, enjoying the entitlement and the privileges that came with the position. But then at the end of the day, they didn't nurture the people behind them. They opened the door and closed it behind them. They didn't train them properly. They didn't, foment like creativity. Because it's shown that, studios like Larian do that. Studios like they're people that know what they're doing, like 4 or 5 people that know exactly what they want the game to be and how to get there. And then they nurture the people below them. That's how you foment, good, like a good workplace, like a relationship, And it is what it is. And the fact that they're not willing to take a smidget of responsibility, which would give them so much more respect from the audience perspective if people like David Gator and Mark Darrah came out and said, you know what? Or first of all, stayed quiet. Like, that's an option. Staying quiet, it's an option. But also being like, you know what? We take a semblance of responsibility. Because sure, maybe, EA didn't, help to make things easier for them. But working for a big company is never easy. And putting, effort in actually making something happen against, your boss's wishes, it's never easy, but it can be done. But at the same time, you're just comfortable being in a position where, you get a very good pay and you're in a position where people respect you as a senior developer and you didn't want to shake it. You didn't want to fucking, get fired or have to leave. So it is what it is. There has to be some semblance of responsibility here because it's impossible for a head of a company to ruin a specific title by themselves. It doesn't work like that, okay? Mark Darrah is a BioWare dev or an ex-BioWare dev. He left the company in 2020, I think. I could be wrong.
But from a business perspective, that'd be awesome. You know that you're going to have 5 games that you only have to worry about 5 games at your publishing organization, and then one will start to slowly decline, and then you go and you start the hunt for the one that's going to replace it as it eventually dies. I don't want the industry to look like that. And I kind of feel like maybe people are starting to signal with their wallets that they don't want it to look like that.
Excuse me? Excuse me? I beg your finest pardon. Did he just say people are voting with their wallets? But when people did that with Veilguard, it was an issue. It was trolling. It was review bombing. I beg your finest pardon, Mark Darrah. I cannot take these people seriously. I can. Specifically when you can tell that they're just taking terms from the from the internet and just repeating them without knowing. I'm sorry, but did these men just said people are voting with their wallets? Who are you, Grumps? And Demian, is that you? What's going on here? Wah. So you see, we are on their side when it's convenient for them, except no, we're not on your side, okay? The industry as a whole is a cesspool, and the greed of the fucking video game industry sickens me to my stomach, and I'm not alone in this, and it's just like, the video game industry, as of yet, like entertainment industry, modern entertainment industry, sucks dick and balls. Dick and balls, it sucks, okay? And we're all aware of that, and we all want it to fucking change so we can have some good entertainment, so we don't have to think about our lives, okay? But the fact that these men think that because we are forcing the entire video game industry to take a pause and be like, okay, what we're doing right now, it ain't working. The people that we're pandering to, that ain't working. It doesn't mean that we're on your side. Mark Darrah just said people are voting with their wallets. I will play it again for the people that just joined. Again, the mention of Concord and the people are voting with their wallets, I wasn't expecting that to be a thing that was said.
People are starting to signal with their wallets that they don't want it to look like that either.
Sure.
I think Clair Obscura in a lot of ways is a strong signal because it's a game made pretty cheaply with.
So why do you have been complaining for 30 minutes? We didn't have enough money. We didn't have enough money. We didn't have enough money. We didn't have enough funding. EA is a fucking penny pincher bitch. They didn't give us enough money. We didn't have enough money. Not enough resources. Not enough money. And also it's like, well, Expedition 33 is a very clear example of what you can do with a very small amount of people and very small amount of money. Which one fucking is it, bro? Is it that you don't need a lot of money if you have the talent? Or are you saying that you do need a lot of money because you lack the talent to pull anything off? Anything of value, anything, groundbreaking, anything good. That's why you need that much money. Which one is it, Mark? Because
with good but not over good visuals, and people are like, I mean, it didn't sell 15 million copies, but it sold great. I mean, I guess we'll see. Maybe, you know what?
You never know, right? Until the publisher speaks.
Every time I talk, as I'm talking, I can just see like the GTA 6 logo like rising out of this fog in the back of my mind. I think that's going to be what decides. Honestly, ask me again after GTA 6 ships.
The fact that you're saying, GTA 6 is like GTA and Rockstar haven't been just doing their thing. Like, you cannot. What the fuck are you talking about? I'm sorry, my bad. Like
because it's so rapidly evolving, right? It's tough to say. It's tough to say.
If GTA 6 doesn't sell 70, 80 million copies or whatever GTA 5 sold, then that's gonna signal something. But if
you think that GTA is gonna sell? Okay, I'm very sorry. 90% of my chat right now is gonna pre-order GTA 6. Look at me. Look at me. I know it. Am I disappointed in you? Yes. Yes, I am. But I know it. There are titles that are never gonna die, okay? Unless, you know, like GTA might die. Listen, you guys are gonna buy GTA. Prove me wrong. Don't buy GTA. Don't buy GTA. I will know. Don't buy GTA. But people are gonna buy GTA like this. Why? Because most of the audience for GTA is not on the internet, which a lot of us forget about this. Not all human beings are chronically online like we are, okay? Some people that play GTA, they play, you know, they work like 15-hour shifts, come home, crack a beer, and play GTA for like, you know, until it's 4 a.m. And then they do it over and over again. They don't have time for Twitter and TikTokies and Twitch and shit, okay? They actually have a life, and they're only, it's like playing Battlefield, and they play FIFA, and they play FIFA over and over and over and over again. And FIFA 255 comes out, and it's the same, but there's one more blade of grass. That's the difference. And they buy it and they play it. So yes, GTA would have to release broken, okay? Fingers crossed. It would have to release like falling apart. Like, you know, like it makes a Steam crash for it to not sell. Because this is the same fucking conversation that we had on the Switch 2. Fuck the Switch 2. Fuck it. Fuck Nintendo. Fuck you. And what happened? Sold out. So, you know? Yeah. There's a lot of but then it's like, I'm gonna buy it. I didn't buy it because I wanted to play it. I'm just gonna buy it to see how bad it is. I mean, I didn't get the Switch 2. You know, I didn't wait like 60 hours online to like buy the Switch 2. I just wanted to see how shitty it is. Listen, we know what you are. We know what you are. We know. And yes, the industry is gonna change. It's gonna, you know, shift. And we're gonna be paying, not we, who's we? Because I'm just gonna fucking pirate the fuck out of games because I own a PC. But people are gonna pay $80 and $90 for games that do not, they didn't, you know, they don't deserve it. They don't deserve it. So it's never gonna change. It's never gonna change.
It's basically, you know, if it's the most successful launch of all time, we'll see.
Get ready
like,
for more.
Yeah, and I mean, we're seeing, you know, I don't know. Are we seeing? Is this the last console? Is this the peak console? Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I'm not Michael Pachter, but he might be right.
Sure. We talked a little bit at the very start of this of your, you know, experience with the Sonic team. You loved a small team, getting to know everyone. I've argued, and it's more like armchair game deving, to be completely honest, but I've argued that I feel that is a lot of this industry's future. A lot of these, it seems, veteran developers continue to flee from these big studios, these prominent names, to go start their own adventures because they want to have that control back. They want to know their team. They want to have that bond, that kinship. Do you see that maybe being the future as well? I mean, again,
I don't know if they talk about the future of video games. Like, that's not the past of video games. Like, oh, yeah, you know, people are like realizing that a small studio with control over what they do is better than working and selling their souls to a big company. Yeah. This is news to whom? This is how it used to be, Maddie. This is not the future. This is the past. Past. We've been there. We've done that, and it worked, and then it didn't work. You know, that's the thing. That's the problem. It's like, listen, is EA at fault for buying studios, or are studios at fault for selling out? Because let me tell you something, right? Is it EA's fault for offering a lot of money to BioWare? Or is BioWare at fault for selling their soul to the devil from the Bible? I understand, making video games is expensive, but is it though? Because you did it once and you only get bought by a bigger company if the game that you made is successful. You're not gonna get an offer if the game you made flopped and no one heard about it. So, you taking the easy way out and just literally becoming a minion for the devil is not my fault. And it's not my fault for you to suffer the consequences of like, oh my God, we joined this big company knowing that we would have more funding for a project, but oh my God, I have to answer to people now that are not, my usual boss. Oh, there's expectations from the higher ups. How dare they have expectations of what I do with their money? You know what I'm talking about? It's like, at some point we have to own up to the things that we do. And again, is what you guys they're saying like, hey, if you are not agreeing with the company policies in the way that they want to do things, you can always leave. But people like Mark Darrah and and other writers like Patrick Weeks, they didn't leave the company until they had to, or they were fired, or they physically they couldn't put up with it because they felt like disregarded and disrespected anymore. You had a choice. You could have left earlier. You could have stood your ground, but you didn't do it. So, do I care about your opinion? Not really.
And you used Expedition as an example, and while they outsourced a lot of their work, as any company does, it's a 30-ish person team that's kind 33. Of like they're building the framework, if you will, of what Expedition is, ideating and everything like that. Do you view that as a potential future for the industry? Because the problem I have is I'm like, well, yeah, this game makes money. And I think for me, I would not sit here and be upset if anything I saw and made or someone else made, 3 million copies. I would never scoff at that. But there are publishers that do. I always wonder the difference between like greed and also just like how much is enough. So what do you make?
The thing is, like, people, like, companies cannot scoff at numbers anymore, because with Expedition 33, it's not a matter of how much it's sold. It's a matter of how word of mouth there was about that game. It's a matter of how people were just willing to promote the fuck out of it for free. Like, I've never seen a game, maybe aside from Baldur's Gate 3, in my lifetime, okay? I don't know about you guys, that I got recommended by multiple people. And I'm talking multiple people that don't play the same games that I do, okay? I'm talking about, I have a friend that exclusively plays like survival games. Recommended it to me. My boyfriend recommended it to me. Like, someone else recommended it to me. Everyone that I talked to online recommended it to me. And I was like, damn, I guess I'll play it. I played it. I loved it. I could not recommend it more to every single one of you that asked me. I've never seen anything like that, okay? Yeah, almost no marketing, almost nothing. It just did what it did good, and it left a mark on people enough for them to do the rest, which is what you want to do. Expedition 33, like the company, what is it, like Sunfall Studios? I don't remember their name. They had to spend zero on fucking marketing. Zero. The audience did it for them. 3 million people did it for them. Okay? And it's probably sold quite a bit more now. Sunfall. And it kept numbers, okay? It's not about the number of players. It's the way that it kept stable and increasing the number of players for days and weeks and months after release. It's how we got people talking about the fucking music, bro. People were like, you know what? The game is not for me. The music, though, I love the music of Expedition 33. It had something in it for everybody. People told me, you know what? I don't like to play the game, but I watch the cinematics online because I love the story. And isn't that crazy? Corinne Bush is currently working for Wizards of the Coast, allegedly, on a horror game, on a new horror game. Okay, there's nothing that is. There's rumors that Corinne Bush is working on the new Baldur's Gate 4. That's not confirmed or true at all. Corinne Bush is working on a horror game.
Yeah, I mean, line must go up. If you're a publicly traded company, and I think that some of the ills of the industry are the fact that so many of the major publishers are publicly traded.
But again, it's what we're talking about, that Mark Darrah is like, the small devs. The devs are the best. They're the heart of the company. And we push hard and we try to stand up to the big bad company. But then people that they defend, like Corinne Bush, they move to another big bad company to make money. So,
the line has to go up. And, and line has to go up quarter to quarter even. And this is, dev times have gotten longer, and that makes it harder. 3 million, yeah, I mean, if I made something with 30 people and sold 3 million copies, I'd be ecstatic. But I mean, that's $100-ish million. EA talked about having billion-dollar franchises. Back in 2015, they were talking about that. So the problem is, if you go and you want to have $100 million franchises, you need 10 times as many to have the same amount of revenue. And there are good arguments for actually maybe that's better. Maybe that's more. And actually, EA back in 2009, 2010 kind of looked more like that. They had a lot more games. But you're a lot less shaky, right? If you ship 3 games a year and one of those games stumbles, that's a third of your revenue. If you ship 30 games a year,
he's shifting blame constantly.
Then, like, if
Which
5 of
I would
them
say, did we do the Bioware? Yeah, Bioware's fault.
So, like, there's something to be said for that. So I don't know. I mean,
I'm almost out of bingo,
we've
bitches.
seen a lot of studios started by people who left AAA companies, Bioware, but others as well, who got big investment, and then late last year, they're gone. Their money went away. But I think that Clair Obscur, again, maybe is the way, because they had external investment. I can't remember from who, but I think it was less. They were less dependent on that. So maybe that's the promise. I mean, or maybe it's,
he doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. Everything is, it could be this, it could be that, it could be, what the fuck?
Maybe it's just like, maybe we'll just have a rebuilding period. Maybe it'll be really long, and maybe we'll get like a bunch of indie people who, over the next 5 years.
The problem, BJ, with the Baldur's Gate 3 sequel is that Larian is not going to be involved. Larian didn't like the way Wizards of the Coast was trying to micromanage their, like, they tried to push for DLCs and shit like that, and Larian was not about that life, because they wanted to, like, focus more on their projects and shit like that. So a Baldur's Gate 3 sequel, Baldur's Gate 4, would not be made by Larian.
Grow into AA, and then that's what will form the next AAA.
Yeah, interesting. Because, like, in my experience with game pitching, I've found that a lot of the, by the way, I've only strictly pitched to indie publishers, but a lot of it's equally.
He is making a game.
Like, I think what happens is the top level things with AAA have deceived a lot of people. That I think what folks don't realize is, even though these indies are making a lot of money, it's equally tight down there. I mean, as I kind of described earlier, I use Balatro as an example, like a game that is fantastic, but a game that likely wasn't very expensive. It was one developer, and it goes on to sell 4 or 5 million copies at $15 a pop. Like, that's what all these indie publishers I found just continue to hunt for, is like, or Balatro. And so they don't want to take any risks. And I always worry about, a risk averse industry and sort of what that means, because then me as a developer, like, we're not making a Balatro style game, but I get that quiet voice in me that sometimes feels incentivized to go chase something smaller, safer, that we can do in a year, and shove off to a publisher that might be like, this isn't high risk. But I'm like, that feels so backwards. That's not how.
No, I get what you're saying. And I do think that's where we're at right now is. And I think what we might see is, things that are funded. What I'm starting to,
like, like that's the thing, right? By every example that they make, you can put out like 3 other examples that just completely like break their logic. Because Owlcat, the Pathfinder games were mostly like kickstarted, and that's how they got, like their footing. They pitched the idea to an audience, and unlike Grams, right? They got a Kickstarter campaign around the game, and they made the game happen. And then they actually kept on, working on the game and updating the game and making it better, making it more seamless, and making it like more smooth using the funds that they got it just through sales, the game sales, not the Kickstarter. Like that's just to get the basis of the studio and the game started through the sales of the game itself through Steam and whatever. That's how they kept making the experience for the customer like better, and that's how they got a footing in the CRPG like industry. And one thing that Owlcat does very very well is they know what they do. It's like Larian, they know what they do best, and they don't try to do anything else. In that sense, they're very old school. Like, it's just, okay, we are doing CRPGs, and The Expanse is the first ARPG that Owlcat is touching. And I don't know if they're a publisher or they're like fully on, like, working on it. I don't know, I'm not sure. But Owlcat started from absolutely fucking nothing to becoming a small studio that knows what they're doing and knows where to invest their money. They are literally partnering with Games Workshop. They have access to, like, they did the Rogue Trader CRPG, and now they're working on the Dark Heresy from Warhammer 40k, another RPG. They're doing The Expanse. So because they do what they do really well, fucking companies like Games Workshop, and I don't know, like, I guess The Expanse, I don't know if it was a set of books or whatever, first, they are given access to other people's IPs, very, well-known and established and loved IPs, and they're trusted with them to, I know that you can do a CRPG that people are going to enjoy. Here is the, the IP. Do what you will with it. They're trusted now. And they're not BioWare. And they're not, they're not Larian Studios. They're Owlcat. They're tiny. But the selection of games that they do have are solid, are good. Are they for everyone? No. They don't have to be. That's the thing. They don't have to be for everyone. They're most certainly not for everyone, because an Owlcat game is, on average, minimum 200 hours long. So it's not for everyone, but again, they don't have to be, and they pride themselves on like doing what they do with relative success. You might like some parts more, you might dislike some other parts, less, but it is what it is. It is an Owlcat game, and people love it, and people are there to support them, to be like, you know what? Yes, okay. And then again, you have people like Mark Darrah who had access to 10 times the budget that these people do have right now. Okay, because I'm telling you right now, Andromeda had 10 times the budget that any of the Owlcat titles, then probably fucking Rogue Trader did. And it's still, sold better probably, and it just did better like with audiences. And to just shift the blame on like, oh, we don't have enough money, we don't have enough time, the company is pressuring us, the publisher is doing this, and it's never a look inwards of like, could you have done a good job with the resources you were given? Could Owlcat or Larian done a good job if EA had given them those resources and money? And the answer is most likely 100% yes. They could have put out a good game, or at least a liked game, where a portion of the their audience, their target audience, would have been like, you know what, I love this. But because you guys lack the talent and creativity to work within the limits and work within the lines, you failed. And that's, there has to be some semblance of responsibility there. Do you hear what happened to Bungie? I've heard things about Bungie, not good things. Didn't Bungie change to Halo Studios, or is that another thing?
To maybe see is maybe money coming into the industry from weird places. So, I mean, I'm in Alberta, and there's a lot of oil money floating around in Alberta, and maybe there are some of those people that are like, okay, well, this can't go on forever. And so maybe you start to get a little bit of, now this is not AAA. This is maybe in the early dev indie space. Maybe you start to get a few things happening there. I don't know. It's rough right now.
Perhaps aren't you Sony?
Yeah, you kind of have to just take your check wherever you can get it.
Sony got tired of their shit and taking control. But I've heard terrible things about Bungie. Like, just terrible things of like really bad choices. I don't know if aren't they the ones that like fired the soundtrack maker, and it was the guy that did Halo or whatever. They stole art. So Bungie is just like, they needed to be they needed to be brought into the back into court. Like, where are you going? What's happening here? Like, the list needed to be like tightened, because that's crazy.
This point, because there's just such little options available and so few willing to take a chance.
And people don't do, and you're absolutely right. Like, I mean, people don't do the math. It's like, okay, so Balatro sold 5 million copies at $15, but I mean, they're only getting basically 10 of that. So like, that's $50 million. That's great, but marketing and like, it's like it goes.
Except Balatro didn't do marketing. That's the thing that they don't like. He's thinking again like a corporate drone, and it pisses me off because he keeps saying like, oh, companies are bad, but he's just thinking like a corporate drone. Like, oh, they only did $50 million, but you don't know what the people that worked on Balatro are gonna do with it. They're not gonna do the next fucking GTA killer if they're smart about it. They're just gonna continue, investing, $1 million. Fucking Balatro probably cost, I don't fucking know, like nothing to make. Imagine investing $1 million of those 50, 1 million into making, something in where the devs are comfortable making, they're familiar with making, just they have, more leeway, they have more money to work with. Like, they don't need 50 million to make their next game. That's fucking ridiculous. They invest 1 million of those 50 and they make a good game that they're comfortable with, they're, happy with, they're proud of. And that will multiply again. Like, it's just not everyone is fucking BioWare. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh,
like,
it doesn't. It
goes quick.
It goes quick.
Yeah.
Does it?
Yeah. Well, it's just interesting to get a veteran's thoughts on just sort of where we're at when it comes to
the fact that they're talking about 50, like, that pisses me off. He's talking about $50 million like it's nothing, when games used to be made with 2 rocks and a stick. It just baffles me. The way that you cannot trust this man to, talk about like the industry and what's going to be successful or not. Because if 50 million is not enough, and you keep telling me that, oh, EA didn't give us enough money, how many millions are we talking about here that you thought were not enough money for your game? Do you know what I'm talking about? Just how detached from reality you are that you think 50 million is not enough money. So how much money were you given in your projects? How many millions of dollars were you given to make Anthem and to make Andromeda that you thought were not enough? Because that's insane. That's an insane thing to say.
The economy of gaming, I appreciate the insight on that.
Yeah.
Let's jump a bit into Veilguard a bit. This is a game that's just had a lot of conversation around it. So just as someone who's been with the franchise since the beginning, and then you, if correct me if I'm wrong, you executive produced on this? I
was executive producer on the Joplin part, and then for like a year on, I guess we'll call it the Morrison part after Anthem shipped. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. So yeah, you've seen this thing.
So he was very much involved with Veilguard. So is he going to be very realistic about the conversation that they're going to have about Veilguard? Or is he going to be an absolute fucking buffoon and talk about, how good it was and how mean people were and how much it was, Like review bombed.
Transform, grow, change, evolve, whatever word you want to throw in there. Did you have any worries when this game was going on into the wild? If there's anything you could have changed, given how things have gone, would you have changed anything at all? Or do you kind of find a valuable lesson learned in all of it?
Yeah, I mean, Veilguard is 4 games stitched together, and you can really see the stitching.
No, because if it was 4 games stitched together, we would have seen the work that other people. Again, this is one of the excuses that they have been using since conception, okay? And we had access to, I don't remember if it was Joplin or whatever. We saw assets for Joplin where we saw like really disgusting creatures. We saw like that a spider that had hands instead of, like spider legs or whatever. We saw really fucked up stuff in that. We saw a model for Solas that looked really good, and they completely scrapped that and made him look like Play-Doh and the fucking, like a handsome Squidward in Veilguard. So all I'm hearing is like, oh, and I have read multiple times the art book for Veilguard, and I am telling you right now, if it was 4 games stitched together, it would have been 1,000 times better than what we got. Okay? As someone that has read the book, I have read what they wanted to do with the story, what they wanted to do with the live service even, which it would have been an interesting live service because you had like the whole submarine and moving base mechanic and going from here to there. It was such an interesting concept. The politics of the game that we completely missed were great, and it involved like bringing back like, who is the divine? What would they do if the world was at the edge of chaos? It was so interesting in concept, probably like, really hard to execute with the little fucking talent they had in the company, okay? Because all of these concepts were made by brains that knew what they were talking about and knew what they were doing, and they left the company and they did their own fucking thing. And then those concepts that were already like, thought were pushed down, because again, what happens when you have a company full of incompetent people and the only competent people leave is that someone has to fill this space over here. So someone gets pushed up, someone that doesn't know what the fuck they're doing, and whose little feet are too small for the shoes those people left behind, okay? So those thoughts were left there, and then someone looked at it and was like, but I don't know what to do with this. And they just scraped it, just fucking tore it to pieces. And that happened over and over and over again, where competent people left the company and fucking retards, took their place, and they were like, I don't know what to do with this. This is too complicated for me. And that's what happened, and then we got Veilguard, okay? If it was 4 games stitched together, this game would have been fun to play at some point. It wasn't.
Probably the best thing that could have happened, well, assuming that EA was going to prioritize Anthem over Dragon Age, which I think I don't think there's a universe in which that doesn't happen. Assuming that happens, probably the one single act that would have made a massive difference to Veilguard would have been to shut the project down completely when I moved on to Anthem. Because it's carrying a lot of the weight of being.
You know what I'm talking about? Where there's that level of arrogance and superiority, where it's like, well, they should have, shut the project down when I left. Mark, they should have never even thought about a Veilguard to begin with. Okay, that's what you should have pushed for, those remasters and remakes, and actually be part of them if you cared about the fucking IP that much, but you didn't, so shut the fuck up.
That live service game in that period, like running without an executive producer, and it's just like it picked up a lot of stuff that that is still in there. It's still part of the end result of the game, in part because it was always essentially a year and a half away from ship. From that moment on, it was always in this constant state of being too close to its ship date to really completely retool. When the Mass Effect people came on to Veilguard, They stopped completely. Like they was like, yeah, we're gonna be on Dragon Age, and we're not gonna let this zombie project continue on its own without its leadership. We will only work as much on Mass Effect as the executive producer can pay attention to. And you know, that's what we should. That's the one thing that absolutely would have made a massive difference.
So now, you literally were you're just saying, Darrah, that you expected developers who, you know, their priority was Mass Effect, and that was what they were hired to do, for them to put Mass Effect on hold because you guys were too incompetent to do your job. Because listen to me, okay? Oh, Veilguard was really hard because people left. Why did people leave? Why didn't that happen with Mass Effect 5? Why didn't we hear about Mass Effect 5, you know, being stopped, and the, you know, lead developer left, and the lead writer left, and it paused, and again, and again, and again? Maybe because the people in charge of Mass Effect know what they're doing for the most part. Right now, the lead developers for Mass Effect 5 are all veterans that have worked in every single Mass Effect game. Does that mean they're gonna do better or worse? I don't fucking know, because at this point, BioWare could like fucking be on fire and I wouldn't piss on them to put them out, okay? But again, it's like people that at least know what they're doing. I'm thinking Dragon Age, like there has to be something there that we don't fucking know, okay? And it has to be something to do with like probably like rivalries between developers and between writers in the team for Dragon Age. I'm not talking rivalries between Mass Effect and Dragon Age, no. Just in Dragon Age. It had to be so messed up. It had to be so disorganized in such levels of, you know, dick measuring contests that nothing could be done. Because it only happened to them, bro. It didn't happen to the other fucking games in the fucking like studio. We didn't hear, like, even as bad as Andromeda was, we didn't hear about, you know, the developer left. We didn't hear about that. Because at least, you know, the inner workings of the fucking team, they at least had some semblance of like good relationship with one another. But you keep hearing about, you know, like they left and this and that and whatever. So it just goes to show that the people working on Dragon Age were not the right ones. They were not the right ones. And I'm sensing with, like, you know, when it hurts me because a lot of these people are the brains behind my favorite video game of all time, unfortunately for me. But the more I meet, like, and the more I hear about, you know, Mark Darrah and David Gator and Patrick Weeks and these other writers that feel such an entitlement and such a, you know, a sense of like, oh, what I think is what's correct. What I think it's good for this project is what's correct. And I just feel like that is the case of what would happen in a meeting of like, oh, I want it to be this. Like, I keep hearing, oh, it's the BioWare's fault. It's EA's fault that it changed. And all I'm hearing is, oh, they were trying to make 4 games simultaneously. 4 people were pitching completely fucking different things and then throwing a fit when it didn't work out or when not enough people were on their team to make it happen. And then they left. You know, like, that's all I'm fucking hearing. It's like, oh, we can get this done. I have a vision, and instead of working together as a fucking team and maybe, you know, taking some things from each game and each project they wanted to make, they just, you know, they were just competing with one another. And there was not a good work environment in that fucking company. And we know, like, during Veilguard, the work environment was even worse because there was that entire thing of, you know, if you're a man or you're white, like they fomented that nasty environment in the workplace of, you know, you're not gonna be heard, like your opinions are not gonna be heard, and you have to, you know, walk on eggshells around the studio because, you know, the studio and the team and EA and BioWare were marketing like with 100% certainty, like they thought they were 100% confident that if we market this game towards LGBT plus, like the fucking, the LGBT community, we're gonna get a fucking audience. We're gonna make it. We're gonna succeed. And that was the entire, like, it just seems to me BioWare, didn't foment that. EA didn't foment that, right? They sure said, okay, this is a list of the, target audience that it's working right now. Make it happen. And then the fucking team became just like, you get hired because of what not who you are, or, who you are, not what you do, not your skills. And that just created a terrible environment, even worse than what was before. So for me, it just seems that it's a skill issue. It's like the writers and developers just got too comfortable and they didn't actually want to put in the work. But again, there's no sense of responsibility at all. At all. Because all I'm hearing is like, oh, EA wanted a live service. EA wanted a live service. That doesn't explain why the tonality and everything about the game would change so drastically over the years. It doesn't explain. A live service doesn't explain that, okay? It doesn't.
Wow.
There's a non-zero chance that Anthem ships and we go to try to start the Dragon Age up from a cold start and EA goes, no, we don't want it anymore. So
that's survival again.
Yeah, so maybe you don't get a Dragon Age, 4 at all in that world.
I wish we had lived in that world.
You're not carrying that baggage in that case.
The project would have stood a better chance to be its own thing rather than inheriting so many different ideas from people who may not even have been there anymore.
So much of, there's not a lot of Joplin in Veilguard, but there's a lot of more.
Joplin, by the way, was the good one, okay? Joplin was the Veilguard that we wanted. Joplin was the earliest conception, okay? Joplin was, we're picking up from Inquisition, but we're actually gonna fill up the holes. We're actually gonna make politics matter, where, the Divine plays a part, the Inquisition plays a part, royalty and the crowns play a part. Everything that we have done until that point matters and influences the story, and we have freedom to move through the map and do this and do that. It was much more spy heavy because it makes sense. You're being hunted by possibly the Divine, Solas, this and that. Well, you're chasing Solas and you're trying to stop him. And there's this level of secrecy and urgency. And there was a part where, you assemble a team and you try to go after Solas. And Solas kills your entire team except you. So then you have to start from, from square one. And your companions betray you. Okay? They betray you. If you take a companion to a certain quest, the quest might play out differently. It was a much more grounded, much more greedy, much more a nicer fucking game. We had mounts, okay? We had Griffin mounts. It was just a better fucking game in every single way possible. And then it started the bickering and the infighting. And the and it became Veilguard. Imagine that. So yeah.
Morrison and Veilguard. In art style, tone. A lot of that is where a lot of that is multiplayer, live service stuff, and it was worked away. It was worked on, but that was the base.
Right. Yeah. Are you able to speak to the tone a little bit? Because I know that was in Schreier's report a bit, but as someone who, again, been there since the start of this franchise.
Shut up!
You look at Origins and you look at Veilguard, and I think it's fair to say kind of night and day in most instances. I do think of one part of Veilguard, which was like a conversation you have with Morgan toward the end of the game, where I was like, oh, this is exactly what I think Dragon Age is. How do you feel about the tone of the game and sort of how it's changed dramatically since the original?
One thing to remember with if you think about the example I use is the Thor movies. Mm-hmm. So Dark World came out right around Inquisition. I think it's before Inquisition, and people are like, ugh. And then Ragnarok came out in when did it come out? But it came out like early in Dragon Age 4's development.
Okay.
And so that was like the height of the sort of like love with this brighter.
Is he trying to say that people loved Ragnarok and that influenced? I'm sorry, am I hearing that he says that people loved Thor Ragnarok, not even Guardians of the Galaxy? I could have been more lenient if he had said Guardians of the Galaxy. Thor Ragnarok influenced the writing of Dragon Age. So now we're blaming Marvel. Marvel is at fault. Disney is at fault.
Quippier sort of tonal landscape from traditionally very dark.
Literally no one. Listen. It was a self-fulfilling prophecy. Thor started very serious, very Shakespearean, very, alien prince, a god of, and the more we saw Thor, the more fucking idiotic and retarded he became. And people kept complaining about the fact that Thor became a fucking caricature. No one liked the way that Thor became just a fucking fool, a punchline. No one liked it. And you're telling me they saw that. They peeped that with their peepers. And they said, oh, we're gonna do the same thing. Let me repeat. Thor started dark, okay? Dark. And it became shit. Rainbow shit, literally. What happened with Dragon Age? It started dark. It became shit. Unicorn shit. And they thought that that wasn't gonna fucking happen? I am very sorry. Listen. The only fucking movies in Marvel that are extremely successful and kept the tonality from beginning to end is the fucking Guardians of the Galaxy trilogy. Because it stays true to itself from beginning to end, okay? Fucking Thor is, I think, the most disliked solo movies of all time, which people just forget that they existed because they're so fucking bad. And, bro, and you're using them as an excuse of like, it fucking influenced the writing? If you're letting fucking Thor Ragnarok to influence the writing of your game, you need to be executed by a firing squad. Because listen, you need to be put in an island and left to your own devices. What are we even doing right now?
Dark IPs. But we got a lot of years to go. And by the time, if you continue down Thor, Love and Thunder comes out before Veilguard ships as well. And that's basically, if we pretty much can use Thor as plotting the we love this to we hate this with a burning passion.
No one liked Ragnarok. What are you talking about? I love that he's talking about like Ragnarok like it was like the most well rated fucking Thor movie of. No one cared about Ragnarok, dude. Bro, I think people started liking Thor more towards like Endgame and in Infinity War because he was goofy, but you saw that he was actually, kicking ass, right? Like he had a sense of humor, but you also saw that he was kicking ass and this and that. So it was better. But then Ragnarok and Love Thunder, like, okay.
So the game was in development.
Ragnarok sucked too, bro. I'm sorry. I am sorry. Ragnarok sucked ass too. The Thor from fucking, from the second one to the like Love and Thunder, that's not my Thor, okay? That ain't my Thor. Yeah, the only thing I like about fucking Ragnarok was Kate Blanchett, and they killed her. They had a chance of making Ragnarok actually fucking scary, and they ruined it. They made it a fucking comedy, okay? They literally unleashed the Ragnarok themselves. They're like, well, I guess everyone is gonna die, and they doomed their entire civilization to extinction by Infinity War because Thanos kills them all because they're all on fucking ships. And then they become refugees on fucking Earth. We're talking about Asgardians, okay? Asgardians who could just have a fucking planet for themselves. They're literally gods. It's like a whole ship of Supermans, okay? The God Butcher in fucking... That was such a good fucking character that Christian Bale had. And they ruined it. They made him a fucking comedic relief. He was supposed to be the fucking villain. He was supposed to be the problem. But again, because we can... That's the fucking problem with this. They're not good. Ragnarok, Love, Thunder, they're not good. The only semi-decent Thor movie was the first one, okay? And that's it.
For so
That's
long that that like it
terrible.
It basically it's
You're
it's
telling me
kind
that
of
they
almost
took
out of place and
inspiration?
time in terms of its tone.
And
Sure.
again, you're telling me, like, that's another thing, okay? Well, Marvel was popular at the time. So we just mimic that. Nobody forced you to do that. Nobody put a fucking gun. I am telling you right now, I can swear on my mother's life that I know for a fact not a single fucking businessman from EA or BioWare put a fucking gun to Patrick Wick's head and told him, make funny Marvel quips. Write them down. Pony boy, write them down right now. Nobody told them to do that, okay? They thought it was funny. They thought it was like, that's so hilarious. I'm gonna copy that. I'm gonna put that right here. Because Marvel belongs in Dragon Age. You can just tell that these people never cared about the IP. They never cared. They just cared about making it as big as Mass Effect, okay? Themselves. They had a fucking fight with themselves of like, Mass Effect was so good, and so Mass Effect wasn't fucking Marvel. And it didn't become popular because it was Marvel-like. It was because it was fucking Mass Effect. And it was cringy, and it was good, and it was, it was stupid and fun. That was why it was good. And then you're telling me that you saw, like, the Marvel success, which is a success because it is what it is. But the Marvel success, and you're like, I'm just gonna make that, but for Dragon Age. The setting and the story that talks openly about rape and murder and slavery. Yeah, but make it Marvel.
Sure.
Alternatively, this is something that's been bubbling in my head.
Judge Dredd
Sure.
thing, wasn't it?
Alternatively, there's a game missing.
I think
in
it
between
was
the two of them.
cancelled.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's the other possibility, is that there's a game, Joplin, that slots in between Anthem or Inquisition and Veilguard and bridges the gap. Maybe
There's no bridging the gap. I'm telling you right now, Joplin would have been a good game, and there's no way that you go from Joplin to fucking Veilguard. Not in this lifetime. Not in this reality that we live in.
Other time to reassess as well. Less baggage from project to project. Yeah, very ideal. But I was just curious to get your thoughts on that, just given the shift there, because Marvel was a big comparison, that Marvel style, right?
It wasn't Marvel on purpose, but it was definitely drawing from that zeitgeist.
Yeah.
And so it was very Marvel-y. And it also was living with the consequences of...
I think it's time for us. Like, it's been too long. I think like doesn't address any criticism. I think we're gonna have to give that to you guys and to myself as well, because fuck this. Honestly, fuck it. And I don't know if writing style also, if it is, I have a bingo by the way, but is it writing style can we count this as the writing style like being mentioned, like how Marvel affected the writing style, or no?
People not really wanting that anymore.
Yeah. And did you, just to my question about, worrying, and I know you said like just shutting it down probably would have been the better option, but did you have any concerns about that tone going in?
Because we're talking about tone, and this is like the tone of the game. Bingo! I did it. I never fucking doubted. Okay, we're gonna keep playing. We might get all of them. You know what I mean? Like, honestly.
I know that first trailer.
Yeah, BioWare drew inspiration from Marvel, but not from their own games. Exactly.
Trailer in 2024 in the summer was kind of like the moment of like the switch flip for a lot of people. I kind of just worried. It's like, no, I just think at the time I was like, I think it's just like a bad trailer. When I played the full game, I went, oh, it's the whole game. Okay, my bad.
Yeah, I mean,
no, you didn't. No, you didn't. You little piece of fucking lying shit. Okay, Mighty Blaze, you played 7 hours. The best 7 hours, which were still terrible. Okay, because I reviewed those 7 hours of available footage on every single fucking, every single YouTuber that I saw had a new piece of footage from the game that they were reviewing, and it was like 7 hours of fucking footage. Terrible. From the writing, to the animations, to the combat, to the pacing, to the story, anything. For you to tell me like, oh, well, I thought the game was terrible, like it wasn't that good. It's a lie, because you were just preaching the opposite the entire fucking time.
Like that trailer,
okay.
But...
What is it?
My bad.
Yeah, I mean, like, I actually really like that trailer,
okay.
But it also is accurate, and it is accurate to
it is, yeah.
So it's kind of like
that's true.
It kind of and that trailer was around for a long time in various forms. Like it had been developed. Like it was definitely polished up and made shippable, but it had been around in some form or other for quite a long time. Which again, maybe it was a better trailer in 2020
No.
than it was in 2024.
No.
Maybe it was less. Maybe it fit into the cultural conversation better 4 or 5 years earlier.
We had politics. Did it take it out? I don't know. But the fact that he's saying I really liked that trailer.
Yeah, that's a really good point that I don't think a lot of people consider. And I never, until I started writing something myself, I was like, you kind of have to think about that timeline where when you start writing something, it's usually inspired by a thing that happens now. But you have to remember there's like this 4 or 5 year run where that thing.
No. That makes no sense. You want to know why it makes no fucking sense? Because they're speaking about, I write, okay? I'm not a fucking published writer. I'm not. You write, and things from real life are always going to seep into your writing, okay? It doesn't matter what format you do it. Screenwriting, book writing, video game writing. It doesn't matter. Things from your personal life, things that you're familiar with, as the person that is putting, finger to keyboard, it's always going to seep into your work, okay? But not every piece of media is influenced by something that is happening, okay? At all. Because if that was the case, books that were written 20, 30 years ago wouldn't be relevant today. Wouldn't be popular, wouldn't be selling, okay? That's not the case whatsoever. That is just a terrible fucking excuse that makes no fucking sense. And if you're writing to fit, like, if I was writing right now because, okay, let's say Superman is really successful, like, oh my god, or fucking Jurassic Park, and I'm gonna write a fucking Jurassic Park fan fiction that I'm gonna change little things about because that was really popular at the time, but it's gonna take me 5 years to put out the book, and by the time that I put out the book, no one cares about it. That's not, that's your fault. That's again, it's a skill issue. It's your fault as a writer because you shouldn't be basing your work on the popularity of something else. You can be influenced. You can be inspired. That is a tale as old as time. Every single art form is inspired by something that came before. None of us is writing or drawing or modeling or 3D printing, anything that someone hasn't done before, okay? We are creatures of habit. To the point that when we dream, everything that we dream about, the people that we see in our dreams, is literally faces that we see in our day-to-day life, okay? We just like something and we replicate it even without thinking. But if you do that with the express purpose of, this is popular and this is successful, so I'm gonna mimic this to the best of my abilities, which obviously the abilities are not there, is not a lot. And then, you blame that shifting of time and the amount of time that it took you to put that out, and the fact that the audience has shifted their interest to something else, on why your media flopped. That's on you. That's your issue. That's your problem as a creator, this is insane to me that this is even a fucking thing that we have to talk about. Like, that's your thing. And again, it just pisses me off because they're just trying to justify the lack of creativity and the lack of talent and the lack of critical thinking in the fucking industry nowadays.
That you feel is very important to be said, might have been even said by someone else or oversaid by someone else by the time it comes around, and then you just feel out of touch. You're like, oh, I know how we got here. And it's like, yeah, it's got to be a little scary, especially with you guys. You've had such long development cycles at BioWare.
Yeah. Well, and this one is, I don't think anyone should be doing 10 years between games.
Sure.
Except the excuse, and he just admitted, this is a man that worked in Veilguard, okay? Executive director of one of the projects, and then he was brought back to work on Veilguard. And the excuse is like, oh, Veilguard didn't take 10 years to make. But Mark Darrah, who has worked for BioWare and worked for BioWare while Veilguard was being developed, just claimed that Veilguard is basically 4 projects in one. It's a zombie project, which means it indeed took 10 years to make, okay? And other people are like, oh, it was only 4 years or whatever, which is still a lot of time to put out a game, okay? It's, just because they're trying to make it an industry standard that games should minimal take 5 years to come out, doesn't mean that is a thing, that it's true, because no, they don't, okay?
Yeah, I mean, I cover a lot of Bethesda stuff, and that's the problem that I find them to be in right now. I'm like, I don't know. I say it with all the love of my heart because I do like their games a lot, but I'm like, I don't know a world where Elder Scrolls 6 lives up to Skyrim. Like, it's just almost impossible.
The Skyrim fucking shilling needs to stop. We need to come together as a society and admit that Skyrim is really loved because it is basically the best as of now of its genre of open world ARPGs. But Skyrim is not a fucking masterpiece. And, it's not amazing. Skyrim is not amazing. Skyrim is, it just does the open world good because it's the kind of the first of its kind to do what it did. But it's not a masterpiece. And we need to accept that. We need to say that, hold each other's hands and just look at each other's eyes and just accept that, okay?
By the time we get there, 15 plus year gap.
Yeah, we're 14 years now. So
yeah, just unbelievable. Couple more questions for you. Just on the note of working on so many games, I feel like every project comes with its lessons that you learn from it.
Obviously
for
not.
you, I mean, again, you ship so much that I wonder how you think about these things when they do go out into the wild. Were there any lessons that you felt you as a creative or producer, what did you learn from the process of Veilguard going out into the wild and just looking at how things go?
Yeah, I mean, Veilguard's a tough one for me. I don't know that doing what I did, which is leading a project, leaving, and then coming back as a part-time consultant is an experience that I would recommend to anyone.
But you did it.
Sure.
I know that we have, been hearing him complain about BioWare and EA as a company, but the moment he got signed, little check, he came back.
It's like you move from driving the car to sitting in the trunk of the car, trying to shout directions through the firewall. So that, I mean, I learned that lesson, I guess. It I mean, it did actually solidify. I think
What?
Veilguard is not a perfect game. So like it's got lots of problems.
Sure.
But I think that some of its reception could have been mitigated by a more open conversation with the potential player base.
Got you.
Which I've always believed in.
Yeah, of course.
And I just think that anytime you surprise your players, I guess negatively surprise. I guess positive surprises can be good, but any negative surprise is going to end up being way worse.
Yeah.
Than any kind of negative fallout that you would get from coming out with that information earlier.
Understandable. On that note,
that entire fucking train of thought he just had is ridiculous because yeah, he's shifting blame to the fans. So if you guys want to just like, you know, like where it's somewhere here, blames the fans, double bingo, because he's basically saying like, well, if Bioware had been honest about how bad the game was, people would not have overreacted. Except, not in a million years is a company, or like, just think about like, you go to a restaurant, right? You order a burger. And as you're getting the burger, the fucking cook tells you, you know what? This is the worst burger I've ever made. Just a heads up, this is a terrible burger, and it's probably going to give you diarrhea for the next 2 weeks. Have a good time. And kiss you on the forehead, like... there's no reality. There's no, you know, parallel universe where that it's even a thing that anyone would ever do. Anyone that owns any sort of business, no matter how fucking small. Okay, you don't like my logic, right? Like critical thinking. I know extreme thinking here, but if there's something that you think as a developer or as a writer that is just terrible that you feel like you would have to warn players about, I would just push for that to be fixed before release. Not to warn people that this is really bad. Don't be mad at me. Why are you mad at me? I warned you that the burger was really shit and it was gonna make you, you know, poop yourself for like 2 weeks. I told you about it, so you don't have the right to be mad at me. No, you fix it. You cook the burger properly. That's what you do. If you have a semblance of respect for yourself and your work. But there's no way that BioWare or any company or studio would just come out and say, well, our game is really shit, so you guys are not allowed to complain about it. And yet he's just alluding that, oh, people are overreacted. Because, you know, yeah, it's not a perfect game, but people seriously overreacted about it. No, they didn't, okay? It's just a matter of like getting a disappointing game after a disappointing game and then just, you know, having to sit there and take it, you know, up the ass, no loop. No.
Because you mentioned going back part-time and consulting. What pulled you back to the project? I don't know if you've spoken on this before. I might have missed it. But what made you like leave and you're like, I'm done, and then come back and you're like, you know, like what pulled you back in?
So I mean, that's what I do now is I help projects mostly with their process and getting themselves ready to be the kind.
I don't know where to begin with this. So he's a consultant. An independent consultant? Do you work in a company as a consultant? Because we know about consulting companies all up in the video game industry, and we know that they're not fucking good. Okay? Second of all, it's really funny to me that this man, okay, was so fed up with BioWare and with EA as studio and company that he left, right? He left, he said, I'm not doing this anymore, I'm putting my foot down, right? And then he realized that putting your foot down and leaving the company and having to, you know, work on your own and shed by yourself is not easy. So the moment he could consult for BioWare and EA again, he took that money and ran with it. And the fact that he's saying that he consulted for Veilguard, right? And we got what we got. And we are supposed to trust his experience and input and skills to consult other projects is kind of baffling to me.
Kind of studio or team that can ship a game, because you'd be surprised, well, maybe you wouldn't be surprised actually, but a lot of teams are really good at starting games and not so good at shipping them. And I'm really good at shipping games. So that's basically what I do. So part of me was like, okay, I'm doing this. Ooh. Dragon Age just hit alpha. When they hit alpha in 2022, I was like, okay, they've hit alpha, maybe I can help them. And I reached out and they basically said no. And then a couple people left and then they said, okay, actually, yes. So it was fitting into the business that I was already doing, the work I was already doing. But also, I've been the person in charge of the franchise for most of its existence. Sure. So it felt at the time like I wanted to be involved. It
was an ego thing. Again, I go back to the fact that this man is giving me a lot of narcissist vibes of this was my project.
Looking back in retrospect, I don't know if that was actually the right call for myself.
No, it wasn't.
But that was my thinking at the time.
Sure. It's your baby at the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
On shipping a game, that's a interesting touchstone as well. I like to try to when people speak in kind of more game dev terms, I like to try to bring that context to the forefront because for example, when I watch interviews, a lot of devs go game development's hard, and I think many of us know and understand that, many have experienced it, but I think a lot of people need the context of from your perspective, you're how to start a game, but shipping a game, what for you is that process of shipping a game, as in do you come in and you're just drawing the finish lines across all these departments, yep, you're good, what do you do to help get that game out?
The biggest thing for me is it's very easy.
And I love that that's the thing, the end game part was done by the Mass Effect team, and I think the most well-liked part of the game is the end game, and the fact that they keep taking jabs at the Mass Effect team of oh, they ruined it, they poked holes in our project and this and that, when the parts they worked on were the most stable parts of the game. It's telling.
Team to get stuck in the middle where they're I've made a level and now we're just we're shoving content in it, but it's not really looking any better. It's just kind of getting bigger. And so the thing that needs to happen is you need to get something to shippable. I, as the person in charge of the project or the team as a whole, would be if this went out right now, we'd be okay, we're fine with that. And then once you can, even almost agnostic of what that thing is, that can serve as a seed crystal, and then the rest of the game kind of can crystallize around.
Again, it's really interesting because he was part of Joplin. And as someone who claims that he's good at getting things done and getting things to the point where you can ship them, but then he was involved in Joplin and he couldn't get it done. And the process of making Veilguard dragged on for 10 years. For him to come back and say, oh, I have the authority, I have the experience to ship this game, is just ridiculous, because in the same project by a different name, we come to know that he, in fact, did not have what it took to get the game out the door. So it's just really funny. And it's funny to me that he says, he volunteered, right? He reached out to BioWare to consult, and they turned him down until, people started leaving in droves, and they literally needed anyone to come help them. That's when they picked him up. So the fact that, people make it seem they brought him back because he's a senior dev. He knows what he's doing. He has a lot of experience, but literally he was picked because there was no one else available.
But what teams that get stuck in the middle often do is they never want to ever allow that initial crystal to form. So everything is almost done. But if everything is almost done, nothing's actually done. And often the act of finishing
this
something
seems
is
just
like,
a
okay, this is
problem that
almost done, but we haven't
only
hooked
the
up the
Dragon
final
Age
sounds.
team had.
Or this is almost done,
Because
but
we're not
the
hearing
performance
things
isn't
like
there. Or
this
this is
from
almost done,
like,
but the balance
Mass
isn't
Effect.
right. Or all of those
It was
things.
only Dragon Age.
Is that what you realize as you start that process? Is there's a bunch of things that you forgot about, or that are hiding behind that. It's like, oh, right, we need to hook up the final sounds. Oh, now we're blowing memory. Oh, then we need to work on the optimization. And oh, now it turns out we have too many creatures in this combat, so we have to pull out 3 creatures. Now we've thrown the balance out of whack, so now we got to rebalance the entire combat. Oh no, now the level feels.
Again, seems to me like the people involved in Dragon Age were not talented at all.
Now the level feels unpopulated because we had to pull out 25% of the creatures. So now we got to put some more props in. And it's like, as you start that process, it's not that it's hard, but it's more work than people think it's going to be.
Got it.
So they put it off, and then you just kind of have to do it. You just kind of have to start. And someone's got to say at some point, this is why I advocate triage. Triage is basically just the process of looking at the bugs, and in the case of BioWare, bugs means basically everything. Like, I don't like what this hat looks like is a bug, alongside this crashes. But you look at the bugs and you decide when, you know what, the hat's fine. We're just going to ship the hat like that. Like, eventually,
I don't know,
every
man.
game contains at least one bug. Every game could have one extra piece of content. And at some point, you got to say, nope, no more.
So you kind of have to bring.
Now, that's the thing. I think the main issue with the team for Dragon Age is that mainly they didn't have skilled people, and the experience or senior developers and writers on the team were not good at all at training the people below them. And they were just like delegating and pushing, shifting blame. And like, well, I cannot finish this unless that department finishes this. Well, I cannot finish. Like, it was just like a mayhem. And those people were just not professional. They didn't know what the fuck they were doing. And the fact that to this day, they're incapable of accepting that they had a part to play in why Dragon Age as an IP is dead as we know it.
In my experience, I found like a lot of artists, for example, struggle.
Like, that's what you could that is such a telling thing, Joker, of like, well, I don't like how this hat looks, and that's a bug. So everything is a bug and everything needs to be fixed. So none of the actual glaring actual bugs are addressed because they're too fucking busy. For example, fucking playing with the hair physics in the game. Well, I don't like how this tattoo looks in the character creation, and they're like fucking looking at that, and they're not looking at the fact that, the game looks like shit and runs like shit on the other fucking end of it. So it's just like a glaring problem of people were just incapable of assuming responsibility, of actually putting in the work and doing their best at their job. They just were there for a paycheck, and it showed. Okay, there was no passion, there was no actual will to make anything better. There was a terrible leadership at every single point in time, and I feel like the only people that were able to lead people around just left because they knew they could not get it done with the team they had available. They could not get it done with the writers they had available because, again, we're being told that they were being influenced by movies like Thor from Marvel instead of just being influenced and inspired by Dragon Age Origins, which is what you want to draw from. It just sounds like a fucking shit show was going on in the Dragon Age team. And the fact that they're willing to shift blame to EA and the Mass Effect team for some fucking reason, which, they might do better or worse with Mass Effect 5, but at least I'm not hearing shit about them. I'm not hearing, the developers cry about anything. I'm not hearing, the game director cry online. I'm not hearing any of that, at least. At least if they're fucking up quietly. But with Dragon Age, it was just like it was a lot of insecurity. It was a lot of a rivalry, one-sided rivalry with Mass Effect. Just a lot of people thinking that they knew best and nobody actually sitting down and be willing to compromise about, okay, we can take that from you and that from me, and that from him, and that from her, and maybe we can make something work. Just a shit show. And no one is willing to take responsibility for their fucking actions or lack thereof. And that is such a problem.
With perfectionism, like they just want to keep going and keep tinkering and keep polishing. You have to serve as like the pair says, like, it's good. I'm sorry. Like,
yeah, exactly. You got to, there's got to be somebody. That's why somebody's got to ultimately land the plane. And it's great. You know what? You kind of want your artists to be like, I could make this look better. Just let me just give me 2 more hours, coach, and I'll make it look better. You kind of almost want that. You don't want them to be like, meh, whatever, good enough.
True.
But that's their entire, like, the problem is, I don't want, like, that's the same as, like, putting off studying for an exam, and then you try to learn, like, 5 fucking chapters in the, like, last, like, 2 days before the exam. That doesn't show to me that you're interested in, you know, in learning. It just shows that you're interested in, like, not being embarrassed. And not, you know, like, actually flopping and falling on your face hard. I'm more interested in someone that, you know, studies from the beginning of this fucking semester. And that actually puts, you know, like, I'm not asking every single developer, again, because not every developer that works in a studio or a company is there because they love that game. It's their passion project. Not everything is a passion project for everyone, okay? Sometimes a job is just a job. A game is just a game. A movie is just a movie. A show is just a show, okay? People show up, they do their job, hopefully well, and then they get paid and they go home, okay? That's more than valid. But you want them to at least be good at their job. So even if it's not their passion project and they're not, you know, actually balancing maybe the lack of experience and passion with, you know, with skills, they have it with something else. Like, you want a balanced team that they know what they're doing. But obviously that was not the fucking case.
But someone's got to do it. So if they can't do it, and in some ways you don't necessarily even want them to do it, somebody's got to, and that's got to be you. And you got to say, like, well, not me in the case of Veilguard, but somebody's got to say enough is enough. We're shipping this.
So what do you do? Because he's saying that he is the type of consultant you bring in when you want to ship a game. But he's also admitted at the same time that his input wasn't necessarily, like, used to better the game. And he didn't really have a say on when the game shipped. So what do you do?
It requires familiarity of all trades, doesn't it? To kind of know when done is done?
Yeah, you got to be able to... It's a big act of synthesis. So I did it through, I did it mostly through triage by experiencing the game mostly through the bug list itself. Like, you're almost like hooking yourself up to the bug list, like it's the Matrix, and absorbing it that way. Other people do it by very actively playing the games themselves. Other people do it through dailies. Like, you're going to all sit down as a group and we're going to play through this level all together, and we're going to basically talk through what is good, what we're changing. And if we don't mention it in the meeting, we're not doing it. All of those things can work. But something's got to happen. Eventually, you got to basically, at some point, you got to take a piece of content and say, unless it crashes, we're done with this thing.
What a shitty fucking policy, really. And I feel like that's exactly why games are what it is nowadays. The fact that they're very comfortable just saying, like, well, as soon as it doesn't crash, it's we're selling this, we have to ship this, instead of trying to make the project, even if you have to cut down the size of it, which I think honestly that's what 90% of us would like them to do, just like make this half the size. Instead of, like, be like, okay, we want to make this the best it could possibly be. It's not crashing. We'll address the other glaring issues in patch 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 1,000. It's exactly why we are in the situation that we are currently. Because I don't think this could have like and I think it's mainly because not mainly. I think it's because we consume video games through platforms like Steam and Game Pass and stuff like that, where developers know they have a certain leeway in they can fix things that should have been fixed prior to shipping. They can fix them after the fact. That they're not in a hurry. That's why it takes them fucking 5 years, as opposed to like before where it was like 2 or 3 years and you had to get a game out of the door and it had to be as best as it could possibly be because that was the final cut. That was the final project. That was the product that the consumer was gonna get. And it was gonna be the same version of that product that every fucking player was gonna get. There was no, updates, there was no patches, there was no this, there was no adding content, there was no taking content. You had to be sure that that was that. And people did it with not even like less than half the budget that they have now and half the time. And I think it's a glaring, like they're just comfortable. They're just comfortable like doing the bare minimum because they know they will have time even after the game has released to fix it, to improve it. Like I don't have to put like 100% of my effort and just focus onto this because I can just fix it post shipping.
Very interesting. Great insight there. I guess on that note then,
Maddie hasn't added anything of note to the conversation since it started, by the way. When I was growing up, games worked out of the box. Exactly. They could be better or worse, but they worked, okay? You got the game as it was intended. To the best of the abilities of the developers and the writers, and to the best that the fucking science behind it could allow, okay?
Perfect way to round this out is your channel, a lot of it is built around giving advice to aspiring game developers based on your experience. So if there were 3 things that you could make sure any up and coming game developer...
That's the thing, Karen, like they forget, like they're like, so narcissistic and so just self-absorbed as developers and as writers and whatever, that they forget that we are willing as players to forgive a lot of things, a lot of glaring issues, as long as we're having fun with it, right? What you said, like the Pathfinder games, I am willing to overlook a lot of bugs, a lot of glitches, if I'm having fun with it, if the story is good enough to keep me engaged and to keep me pushing through the harsher and the rougher parts of it. And it's a lot of reasons why people love Skyrim to this day, because even though the game had its issues, glaring issues at release, and it's basically a scam at this point, the world is immersive and it's good and it's, it pulls you in and it just allows you to do whatever the fuck you want, and people love that. So they were willing to just overlook everything else about that game. But the problem is when your game is just fucking nasty on every single aspect and there's nothing, not a single redeeming quality about it, you cannot expect the public to be gracious and to allow you to, to make a mistake. Because it's not one mistake, it's not 2, it's not 3, it's mistake after mistake after mistake, and we don't even get anything out of it. Baldur's Gate 3 had a lot of issues at release. It had a lot of issues to this day with pacing and how the story kind of falls flat towards the end. But everything else about the game is quality. And if someone is going to find something that they enjoy about the game, be it the character creation, be it the modding capabilities, like you can just overhaul the entire game, be it the combat, be it the voice acting, the dialogue, the romance, they're going to find something about the game that pushes them to overlook something that they would not forgive otherwise. But games nowadays, they don't have that. They don't have a single thing that I can be like, okay, I'm going to fixate on this and I'm going to completely overlook everything. They don't have that. So everything just stinks equally. So I'm not going to be gracious about it. I'm not going to be forgiving about it.
Developer could hear, especially nowadays. I feel like people need to hear this stuff, not just because of the tremendous insight you bring, but also I feel like when you're looking at there was an article I saw come out from Mobile Gamer. It's like AI tools are replacing jobs at King. It's like, I feel like people need to hear, like you're still needed also. What would those things, those pieces of advice, if there are three, that they have to hear this, what would those be?
Number one is finish more things. So one of the very first videos I ever did on my channel was about making more pots, the parable of the pots, which is, you get better by making more things. So don't keep noodling on that character level design, whatever. Make another one. Make 10 more. And then if you want to, go back and decide that first one you made is a piece of garbage and throw it out and start again. But don't keep noodling on the first one. You will learn more and get better by making 10 than you will by continuing to work on the first one. That's the number one thing. That is everyone. I'll someday just hire a billboard to say that, because that is the number one thing
that's by the way, that's a basic advice with everything. I say that with writing as well. If you don't like something, you don't like a chapter, you don't like a scene, just keep it and write it in a different way, write it from a different perspective, different POV, different tense, change something, change one character, change this, and just, play with it. That's, very common advice for like writing and creating.
Game industry. If it's not in the, I guess number two related, if it's not in the game, it's not real. You gotta integrate it into the game so that you. I just made a video which I haven't even posted yet, which is game dev is a conversation. You're talking with the game itself. So if you need to make something, put it into the game, and then let the game talk back to you to tell you what it needs, where it needs to go from there. If you're just shoving content into the game as fast as you can without pausing to fix bugs, without pausing to look at what you're getting, you're not making a game. You're making a big problem for yourself later when you try to finally make it be a game. And then you're going to have to basically deal with that in reverse if you do that. On AI, oof. The thing that I'm worried about with AI is this. I guess this is more a message for people who are starting their own studios and thinking about using generative AI.
My opinion on AI is, if you're good at your job, AI could never replace you. You only have to be worried about AI if you're not good at your job. If you're a good artist, AI will never be able to replicate what you bring to the table, what you bring to, that piece of art. If you're a good writer, AI could never replicate that level of, that tonality, that flavor that you bring to your writing. If you're a game developer, same fucking thing. If you're just that good, AI could never replicate. AI could make it easier in certain ways, especially like coding and stuff like that. It was what it was originally intended. I think people are really scared in the sense of like, you're only scared if you're not, confident about your own skill, and you're not, just proud of what you can do and you can achieve. Because AI at the end of the day is just AI. It's not a human being. It cannot replicate emotions and tonality and just, little things that we don't even notice that we put into our own work when we create it that are there. It's gonna make things easier in the sense of like coding and just doing the math faster. Okay, so it is what it is. But in the sense of writing and creating content that resonates with other human beings, no. Even to this day, we can tell immediately, no matter how good it gets, we can, as humans, always tell when something is AI generated. Immediately. It doesn't matter how closely it tries to mimic real life, we can always clock it. At some point, it's like, okay, that's not real. Like, that's not... There's something about it that is just like, it's uncanny because it's not generated by human brains. And that's always going to be a thing. And yeah, it is what it is.
Is the problem...
But fearing it doesn't mean that it's going to go away.
We're going to have is that I do think that generative AI is going to be able to replace a lot of junior people pretty soon. Maybe not as good as a junior people, but like replace them kinda. But the problem with that is that in 5 years, after that starts to happen, you're not going to have any seniors, because all the people who are seniors now will leave, and you haven't hired any juniors and turned them into seniors.
Again, if you can be replaced by AI and no one can like tell the difference, that says more about you as a person than about the tool itself. If AI can easily replace you, you're not doing a good job.
And if the industry becomes that industry, either the generative AI tools are going to have gotten good enough to replace seniors, which
and at this rate,
doesn't.
And that's the thing. Like the problem is like they're not like the thing. We're not sad to see people go, and we should, right? We're not sad to see studios close, and we should be sad. The problem is over the past 10 years, they have given us so little quality. Like I would be distraught if writers and developers at Larian got replaced by AI, because I don't believe that the people that gave me the experience that it's like the Divinity Original Sin games and Baldur's Gate 3 could ever be replaced by AI. I don't believe that the composer for the Baldur's Gate 3 OST could be replaced by AI. I don't believe that the man behind Expedition 33, like the soundtrack, could be replaced. It's impossible. You can't replace them. But then there's other studios like Ubisoft and Bethesda and BioWare and EA where already it seems like their content is AI generated. It isn't, but it's so safe, so monotone, so generic, so palatable, so forgettable that it already seems like it's AI generated. So I wouldn't even know if the entire team gets replaced by AI. And that again says more about their business practice and their work ethics and their work environment than it says about the AI itself. It's like maybe you have to look inwards and be like, okay, am I doing a good enough job? Am I setting a precedent? Am I, actually leaving a mark? Or am I just a footnote in history? Am I just, not made for this job? And they don't have that moment of self-reflection ever.
Seem likely to me. Or we're going to be in a real world of hurt as we look around and say, well, where's my lead writer at? Where's my art director at? Where's my creative director at, or my lead designer at? And it's like, oh wait, it's just a field of AI tools because everyone else left. I'm really worried about that the industry is going to hollow itself out.
Not everyone is worried about
years.
that.
We're seeing it happening. We're seeing juniors start to get replaced by AI, by generative AI tools. And they can't do a bunch of stuff yet. But they can do some stuff. And I don't know, someone's going to do it. Like, I'm not saying, I guess I'm not saying someone's going to do it, so you might as well. But someone's going to do it. And I don't know that. My feeling is that the general game playing public doesn't care that much if the game is made with generative AI.
We don't care. I wouldn't be surprised if I get like a Sims 4 or Sims 17 made by AI. I don't understand. Like, I get it. Like, it's a game that, it will get made by AI and it will be the same fucking shitty game. I don't think AI could do Expedition 33. I don't think AI could do, a Fallout New Vegas. I don't think AI could do Dragon Age Origins in a million fucking years. It would take thousands of years to be able to get to that level of complexity in writing and coding and in animation and voice acting and this and that. And again, if at this moment in time you are worried that you're going to get replaced by AI, I'm just telling you that you are not good at your job. Because if you're good at your job, you cannot be replaced. You can't. You're not gonna be replaced.
There's definitely a vocal group that cares. I care. But I don't know that
No, we also care, and we have been a vocal group about, hey, we want good games. And we haven't been listened to. Guess what? When you actually deliver a good game, the public and the audience that you pleased with your product will become protective of you in your job and your work. I would go to war for Larian. I would go to war for Owlcat, okay? I would. But I am not gonna cry a river or take up, my sword and shield for BioWare. Because even way before AI was even, a fucking twinkle in Elon Musk's eye, the games were subpar. And the work was subpar. And the teamwork was subpar. And everything around, the talk about BioWare. Like, I remember during Inquisition, Inquisition wasn't even released. And each week you would hear, oh, so-and-so left the company. So-and-so left the company. So-and-so left the company. Week after week after week. And we're talking about senior writers. So this has been happening. And it's just like, listen, if you can be easily replaced, you have to look inward. It's a moment of self-reflection. Because I don't think the AI is going to do, a better job. But it's not going to do a worse job than you. And that's a moment of self-reflection. It is.
Wrong. I hope I'm wrong. But I think that someone's going to make a generative AI game that's like 80% generative art and generative code and it's using ChatGPT to generate dialogue. And the problem is that game doesn't have to be a 10 million seller. Because if that game gets made for $500,000 and sells 1 million copies, that might be good enough. People might be like, oh, look, I can make... Like, that's what I'm really worried about.
So, again, set a precedent. Like, that's the thing. Like, you guys don't do anything. Like, you, create worse and worse and worse products. And then the moment that, your job gets, threatened, you're like, oh, but that's terrible. AI is terrible. Dude, again, if a subpar AI-generated game is better than something you have been working for the past 5 years, take a look in the mirror. Take a hard, long look in the mirror. Because I'm telling you right now, that's your problem.
It's not, I'm going to make...
And again... fuck AI in the sense of like, if you want to use AI to make yourself a silly anime waifu, I cannot stop you, can I? I don't give a fuck. Like, it's what it is. But, if you're just going to sell art or books created with AI, that's, you're a fucking scammer and it's what it is. But just, you know what I'm talking about? It's just like, it is what AI is not going to go away. It's going to become more sophisticated. And what you guys have to do is just like put in the fucking work. Actually care. Actually go to work and do your work. Period. That's it. And that way you will never have to be worried about anything. Because I don't get it. Like, I don't get it.
Game of the year with generative AI is that I can make 650 mediocre AI slot games for $4 each and flood the market.
Yeah, because we're already experiencing.
But again, the problem is, this is what you guys are saying, is like, if the audience is choosing the AI slop that is not even that good over your game, that means that your game is worse than AI slop. And if that isn't a wake-up call, I don't know what it is. Dude, wake up. Wake up.
That market flood with just like cheap asset flips. Like, that's the current thing right now. And I think it's gonna, you'd hope, responsible storefronts.
Like, before he said, oh, players are voting with their wallets and they're trying to shift like the dynamics in the video game industry. But at the same time, it's like, okay, and now people are, shifting their focus on they're going for indie games mostly. Like, the money they're willing to spend, it's put into indie games. And it's just shifting from AAA. Like, AAA or quadruple A, it's just literally a joke nowadays, where it used to mean something. Now it's literally a mark of it's gonna be terrible. If you are like self-promoting as a quadruple A or triple A game, everyone knows that you're shit. That your game is gonna suck dick and balls. And that's not our fault. That's the fault of the industry you've helped make. So
will kind of step up, and at least in the case of Valve, they're like, hey, on Steam, please, you have to label it or else. But in the case of, I've said, my friend Colin Moriarty brought it to my attention that the PlayStation Store is a complete mess. Like, it's just constantly
absolutely. I saw that
destroyed.
I saw that today with the wordplay by.
But again, look at all this shit, like dog racing, Dragon Nest Shop Simulator, AI slop. Like, you can tell 100% like this is AI slop. If people are choosing those obviously terrible games over your game that it's 200 million and it took like 10 years to come out, is that not a wake-up call? If I'm willing to put myself, through the fucking, dog racing or Dragon Nest Shop Simulator before I even decide to touch your AAA game, isn't that the reason why we're here today? Ladies and gentlemen, because this wouldn't even be a thought 15, 20 years ago. Because the games were so peak and they were so unique and creative, whether negatively or positively. Like, at least they were unique and, out there and done and finished, that this would never be a fucking issue.
By Mark. He was like listing all of the asset flip things that were there instead of his game. Mm-hmm. And it's like, yeah, it's already happening. I mean, I'm on YouTube and like, it's not that I watch.
And I feel like, again, most of us play games that came out 20 years ago. I do. I play games that came out 10, 20 years ago. So I don't play AI slop. Maybe kids, maybe like fucking children, teenagers or whatever. But that's the fucking audience you have to like target to, If your game is fighting against fucking Bigfoot Simulator, which 100% AI generated, then maybe, it's your fault that your game is at the same level as Bigfoot Simulator.
It's not that I watch a bunch of AI slop, like some AI voice reading off a Reddit post videos, but they keep showing up in my feed.
There's a lot of them.
There's a lot of them.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's definitely an uneasy time. No doubt about it. But Mark, man, absolutely incredible conversation. I appreciate you so much. Appreciate what you do for this industry. Your channel is excellent. Again, I'll have it linked down below.
Finish chilling.
Mark, before we go, any final words, any final thoughts, anything you want to shout out, anything like that at all?
I would just say that, if you're someone who is interested in video.
No, I'm not. I love that I told you at the beginning of this that Mari was not gonna actually ask any questions that might, prove to be a point of contention and a question that could serve to open up a door for an actual criticism of anything. It was just a fucking hour and 3 minutes of shifting blame and not taking any sort of responsibility about anything that happened, and just, it's the bad corporation's fault, it's the studio's fault, whatever. I don't think Darrah had anything of note to say about Veilguard that hasn't been said before. So him getting a fucking interview, it's ridiculous. The fact that this fucking video is titled BioWare Bombshell, Veilguard's Hidden Truth, A Lost Origins Remaster is just clickbait to the highest degree. He hasn't said anything that it was not already known. And he didn't hint at the remaster of Origins. He said that he mentioned that maybe doing a remaster would have been a good idea. and then he was, like he didn't pitch it. He just mentioned it, and he never, actually pushed for a remaster. So, nothing has been learned. They shifted blame constantly. And do you guys want to see the maybe like the comments a little bit? I'm gonna do by newest because let's say if he thinks the timing is the key issue, then I think he deeply misunderstands the issues with Veilguard. Its poor reception really cannot be blamed on timing. It is not. It's really bad. The talented creatives have checked out from these tacky puppy mill mega publishers, mostly and sadly. Screw this dude. I feel like Anthem had potential, just EA was trying to make them turn the game into a story-based live service game. Right. Except that's every game that EA has put out. It's trying to be a live service, So, great interview discussion. I don't agree, honestly. Mainstream and accessible does not equal abandoning the audience that bought and made the franchise the masses accept that it was. It's wild how clueless he is about how timeless Origins is. The problem with Veilguard isn't that they missed their window with the tone that apparently didn't understand that what we loved about Origins, and they don't really realize that Veilguard is a bad game. Exactly. The fact that we were literally told that they were influenced by Marvel movies instead of Origins, it's kind of insane. So that isn't. It's crazy. It's crazy. Again, such a great interview. This is whatever. We are hateful people. It is what bonds us together. Hate. This guy blames everything but the team who chose certain decisions and the direction that they took with these games. Like, exactly, it's like Anthem failed, Andromeda failed, Veilguard failed, but it's, it's never because the team behind it. It's because, live service, they wanted to make a live service, and no. Because Veilguard wasn't live service, and that failed. Andromeda was semi-live service, and that failed. Anthem was fully live service, and that failed. It's obviously that they are just not good. After all this time listening to all the cope excuses and blame shifting is getting tiring. It's just crazy. Dragon Age Awakening was peak, it was. And I think Awakening was the, Dragon Age 2 that we wanted and deserved. And if you guys have never played Dragon Age Awakening, it's a DLC that is basically an entire new game that picks up from Origins, and it's amazing. There's no, I don't see a comeback for Dragon Age. The ship has sailed away or sunk. It's cooked. It's fucking cooked. I'm sorry, but not getting down with the Marvel argument. There is no year that Veilguard comes out and it's not a shitty Dragon Age game. Exactly. It's just, yeah. Dragon Age Origins was the formula, and they just shoved it, stumped it down the drain. It's crazy. Oh, it's just upsetting. It's upsetting. It was just a bunch of coping and just justification after justification that could literally be just tore down immediately after. Like, again, it's just a matter of I don't want to be responsible for this. I don't want to be responsible, and I refuse to, hold anyone that I call up here accountable. It's never going to be the writer's fault. It's never going to be the developer's fault. It's never going to be the game director's fault. It's always going to be the fault of, the company, the studio, the parent company, whatever. Except, when a game is successful, it's the developers, the developers made it happen, the writers made it happen, and they made it happen. And it's never the studio that made it happen and that helped it happen. But when something goes wrong, it's always the studio and the company that they did it. They made us do this. But again, I said that that's just completely ridiculous because it just seems by everything that they say in all the articles and just information that has come out in the past year and a half, that it just seems to be an issue that only extends to the Dragon Age team. It seems that it was a team where the senior developers and senior writers were at odds with one another, and they had this one-sided beef with the Mass Effect team as well, where they felt like slighted and they felt abandoned, even though they were given millions of dollars in funding. It's a matter of like each developer, each senior, and each writer just wanted to create their own vision for the game and not being willing to compromise or work as a team. Like they just couldn't do that. Another issue of, oh, we didn't have enough funding. And I just don't believe that's true. I don't believe that, EA didn't pour millions of dollars into these games, because again, it's an investment and they know that, they want to know that they're going to make their money back. Otherwise, the parent company wouldn't even think of investing money into a game to begin with if they didn't think they were going to make like double, triple, quadruple that money. So it's just not, it's not sustainable. It's just a matter of like hiding their heads in the sand. And it does get tiring because it's just very obvious that they're just not good enough anymore. Okay. And we're seeing a lot of young blood, the same young blood that Mark Darrah claims it's getting replaced with AI. They're getting replaced. Well, it goes to show that in games like, Expedition 33, the young blood is the one that it's doing the heavy lifting there, because they're just like, bringing like new points of view and just color and flavor to the table that senior developers and writers simply do not have. And it's a matter of like, like learning to listen to one another and learn from one another and just know when to push, know when to pull, know when to stay quiet, know when to like pitch in. And they just simply didn't have that in BioWare. They didn't have that for a long time since Dragon Age 2. It was very glaring and obvious in Inquisition, where the game was being pulled in 1,000 different ways, but then all of a sudden it's like, oh, it's the live service fault. It's because they wanted to make it live service. I'm very sorry, but that's not the only issue. And there's no way that just because you want to make something live service, everything else is just subpar and terrible. Okay? And that was also a glaring issue with Veilguard, where they keep blaming like, oh, we keep losing our game director and this and that, but they don't really sit down and tell you exactly why. What made these people leave? Was it the company? Was it that the work environment? Was it that, there was like 4 projects being worked on at the same time and no one wanted like, to just accept one as the one they were working on? And we don't get told that. We're just like, it's just like vague like comments about it. It was EA's fault. And I don't believe that it was only EA's fault. I cannot believe they have me fucking defend the multi-billionaire company like that fucking meme. And I'm not really like, EA could like, again, burst in flames and I wouldn't piss on it. The day when, not if, when BioWare shuts down, I'm gonna be there front row clapping with a cake, celebrating, because I'm done. You know what I mean? Like, we have given them a lot of opportunities. We have tried to overlook a lot of glaring issues. And it gets to a point, right, where if you allow a company in a studio to just play you like a fool, you're just like a fucking, like a bitch to them, then that's on you, right? Like that's on you, and that's on your character or lack thereof. And I've gotten to a point where I'm not gonna allow nostalgia to cloud my judgment anymore. I'm not gonna allow very brief and, counted past successes to make me believe that they can be more than they have shown me, because they have shown that no matter how much time you give them and no matter how much money you give them, they're not good enough. They are just simply lacking the talent and experience and effort and passion to get shit done. So there's that. I'm gonna call it here. I'm gonna have some dinner. Again, I have a Discord. If you guys are, if you guys want to chat, there's in the about section in Twitch, and I think in the description in YouTube. I don't know. I have Twitter as well, it's Nure_, same as here, written as here, but underscore. For Twitch, I have YouTube, same as here, Nure, and for Twitch, no, for YouTube, I have Twitch, same as here. Listen, the whole double stream situation, it's hard, okay? So, you know, if you guys want to check out my social medias, don't get excited about anything because I just, you know, play games for the most part. I don't complain about shit usually, but this is close to home, so I had to talk about it. But thanks so much for chatting and for lurking and for just like hanging out with me. I know that it was a pretty long stream and I made the, you know, video even longer because I like to just yap about things. Thank you for the follow, Natural Selection. I appreciate every single one of you, and I hope to see you in other streams. Just a heads up, not every stream is like this. Unfortunately, I know that most of you like it when I yap and I talk about drama and I talk about stuff, but I cannot in good faith. I know that a lot of people thought that I was a grifter in my initial rise to fame with Veilguard, and I just simply don't have it in me to complain about every single game or topic in existence or like movie because I simply don't care about everything. So you won't see content like this that often. So I appreciate it when I do yap about things, okay? Simply because, you know, I wouldn't in good faith just start yapping about everything knowing that I don't really care about it. And I hope that you guys appreciate that. I hope that you do. I'm trying my best here, okay? But mostly what I do is just play video games. I play a lot of RPGs, CRPGs. I'm playing simulators. I'm liking the simulators. And I want to try my hand at playing some horror games because I'm a fucking pussy. And I'm really scared about, you know, horror movies and horror games and anything slightly terrifying. So I think that would be an interesting shift in my content. But I have to psych myself up for that. Food review. I don't eat a lot of food. But thank you so much for everything, for the support. I love you guys and see you tomorrow with gaming, okay? I'm not going to be complaining tomorrow. And I understand if you guys don't want to join in. But I'm going to be streaming every day of the week. Maybe not every Saturday. Like, that depends. And maybe not every Sunday. Like, that depends. I'm going to take, like, some time for myself. But I will let you know either on Discord or Twitch. No, not Twitch. Twitter.